Everybody, it's March 1st. I don't know this. What's really good? That's going to be.
Shit.
Is that my
Bucky's is really good.
Is that what we should start? What? There's got to be some kind of snappy. We need some kind of good top of the show catchphrase.
Oh, Nuck if you buck.
What's Nuck if you buck? It's the Giant Bombcast.
Wow.
It's time to get crunked up. Get crunked up.
Beauty.
Wow.
I love it. I love it.
Wow.
All right, we'll put all that on a
crunked up from
soundboard
the
and then
Nuck
just make it so just push some buttons and just so it goes Nuck if you buck. Janet Choba's here. Jeff Bakalar is here. Jason A. Stryker is here, and we're joined by special guest Timur Hussein from GameSpot. How's it going, sir?
It is going well. I'm glad to be here. I'm ready to knock because I buck.
Good.
What-
I'm
Did I do
glad.
that right?
Good
Did I
man.
do that right?
What does it mean?
Yeah.
Whatever you want it to mean, really.
Yeah, I don't know. We could listen to the. We could, we could dissect the lyrics here and try to determine the definitive definition here, or we could just make something up. I'm gonna say it's like give knuckles to your homie.
Yep.
Yeah.
If you like to fuck, not necessarily fuck your homie, but
If you want to, it's okay.
Or
It's
if
okay.
you want to. Yeah.
knuck if you buck,
What?
and you're like, yes, I do, yes.
Homies are good for lots of stuff.
That?
Yeah. The song starts with a little scrappy. Nuck if you buck, boy, and then in parentheses, crime mob, ho. And then we
Oh.
continue
Crime
going
mob.
like that
Okay.
for
Got
an
it, got it.
So
extended
is it
period of
buck
time.
like a buck 'em down like shotgun type thing, or is it like Two Live Crew put him in the buck type buck, like
Buckies.
Well, according to Rap Genius, who
yeah.
are
yes, of course,
This-
the definitive source.
this annotation, it's unreviewed, keep that in mind.
Shit.
But it says, Nuck if you buck, if you want to fight if someone offends you, or preparing to fight if someone steps to you.
Oh,
Got it.
Okay.
I think
Okay,
we can open this
so
all
it's
the way
like
up.
knuckle
though.
up.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
ducks up.
Oh,
Oh, I hope this is in Sonic 2. I hope this song is in Sonic 2.
perfect avenue for it.
It should
Boy,
be
Sonic. Let's
Idris
knuckle
Elba
up.
covering Nuck if you buck.
Oh, I need to make my cut of this trailer or movie,
Like a
and it's just
full
Nuck if you
song and
buck.
dance number with Knuckles performing.
Ask them to help.
I gotta
They can
go.
help.
I gotta go do this right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
For some
professional
reason,
film editor Tam is-
I just really want Onyx to be on the Sonic 2
Oh,
soundtrack.
Right,
like
back the fuck up.
back
yeah.
the fuck up. Like I want Knuckles to have an Onyx like Kirk Sticky Fingers Jones energy to
Okay.
him in that
Yeah.
movie, and that's the only way it's gonna work for me. Like he needs to be like straight up street. That's what I
Hell
want from
yeah.
him.
Straight
Hell
up
yeah.
street.
But like, what if
Yeah.
he's? I mean, what if
MOP
he was like
maybe.
British street? What if it was more of like a So Solid Crew?
Oh, if he was So Solid Crew, if he was like one of the So Solid Crew members, I would love that. I'd
I'm
take either
thinking like
So
a
Solid.
Idris. What is Idris Elba's take on that kind of street
Idris-
vibe?
Idris Elba is a musician as well, so he's known like he's done musical stuff. He was in one of Stormzy's videos.
Okay.
I think it's Vossi Bop. He's just kind of standing there looking cool. But I
As you do.
believe Idris Elba is more of he has done like lyrical stuff and like vocal stuff, but I think he's more known for being a DJ.
Yes.
And if I remember correctly, like bashment, reggae, house is what his main thing was. But he does have musical ability. I can't vouch for it being very good.
Sure.
But I would love it if he like rolled up as like a 90s, 2000s era, early UK garage / grime kind of hip hop routine with Knuckles.
Because it's
Even the
90s,
DJ
yeah.
thing, though, you could have Knuckles like saying like a big up to the Green Hill Zone, massive,
big-
like
exactly,
kind of
yeah.
thing.
He holds up
Exactly.
his knuckles and goes like, "Oh, we'll hit you with the ones and twos."
Yeah. I think you nailed it there.
That was really good.
It's like we're writing the script here.
Yeah,
We're-
yeah.
This is the thing that they're gonna have to fix about the sequel. They fixed Sonic before Sonic 1 came out. Now I'm pretty sure that script is garbage. So Let's just fix it right now. It's just that Pumpkin Hill track playing. What? Okay, how about Onyx covers the Knuckles fucking rap?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Okay.
We found it.
Ooh,
Okay.
That's the one. That is the one. I'd love to see that. Did you know Onyx released a new album fairly recent? Was it fairly recently? It's probably been a few years now. Time's weird, but like I listened to it and I thought it was pretty good. It's been a while though.
There's still, I don't know. There's like, I feel like by that logic, like there's probably like a Naughty by Nature album that came out in the last 5 years, right? That seems like something that probably happened.
Probably.
Sure.
Let me check. Onyx.
Those dudes are so tall, by the way.
Onyx?
Naughty by Nature?
Yeah.
Tretch and Vin Rock and all them?
Yep. I met Tretch, and then like he didn't want to shake my hand, and he didn't want to shake anyone's hand. He just stood there.
They were too small.
Yeah, my hands were too small. And then he was wearing like a leather vest, and underneath that, like a normal black long sleeve, but you could tell because it was a button up that he had a leather tank top underneath. So
there's multiple Onyx albums. So the one that I listened to was called Lost Treasures, but in 2020 that was 2020. In 2021 they released Onyx for Life, which is another album that I can now get into. One of my favorite things about Onyx is Kirk Sticky Fingers Jones, not known for this but definitely did it, played Blade in the TV series Blade.
Wow.
Which I kind of enjoyed quite a bit. I love that TV show. It wasn't particularly good, but it was still watchable, and he was quite good in it.
I've been thinking about rewatching the Blade films.
Dude, they hold up. They hold up really well.
Oh, I bet. Yeah. I didn't like, but I don't think I ever saw Blade Trinity all the way through. So
Trinity is probably not the best one, but
I'm sure.
Yeah. Triple H is
I
in
feel
it,
like
though.
that series definitely like starts at its best point and just keeps going downhill. Like Blade 2 is not an awesome movie. I must say I enjoyed it at the time, but I don't remember going like, yes, they have one-upped the classic film that is Blade.
Well, there was that whole thing with Wesley Snipes just becoming like incredibly difficult to work with during the movie, to the point where there's a scene where they had to paint on eyes onto his eyelids because he refused to open his eyes.
Jesus Christ.
What a dick.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
He's a
Open your
daywalker.
eyes.
You're gonna have to.
Yeah, he's like, I'm asleep. My favorite Onyx song, if you wanted to know, was Last Days, which was also remade by Dead Prez later on, which is pretty good. Yeah, and they were on it. But yeah, great songs. Onyx,
look him up.
Yep.
He's a Pokemon.
It's more than just Slam.
Yeah, more than Slam. And also Fredro Starr's album, which is like a separate thing. Very good. Very good. God,
I don't know that I know that exists. But now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know that I ever actually heard it.
It's quite good.
All right. What else is going on? You want to talk about some video games?
Let's do it.
A zillion of them came out.
Don't stop.
Oh, cool. The fucking cool thing happened where I got signed out of all the work stuff as soon as the podcast started. So I'm just going to say, hey, Elden Ring came out.
It did.
I think most of us have played some piece of that. Tam, you seem like you've... have you heard of this game?
Little indie game called Elden Ring. Yeah, I've heard of it. I had to... After being excited about playing this game for 4 years, something like that.
I saw you levitate out of your chair.
Yeah, at one point. Yeah, I was so excited. I did what most of us in this job do, is play that game under the worst conditions possible and ruin the experience for myself.
Way to do that.
When people are like, "Oh, you get to play games for a living," it's like, yeah, what if you had to play the games for a living in a way that made you hate every game you played? How about that?
Tell me more.
You like that shit?
How do I break into that?
I feel like when I was doing that, I felt like I was very much built for it, because that's how I played games growing up. Was very much like, I get a game, I obsess over it until I'm done with it, and then it's like, fucking, that goes on the pile. I don't give a shit. Next game,
you had
let's
a
go.
pile. I had to return that shit back to fucking IGA.
I think I was the same as well.
Yeah,
but I think these days, like, the writing process takes it more out of me. Like I was thinking during this review, I was like, I gotta get out the writing game, man. It's too stressful. Like it is. I need to get into the just talk at a camera game because that's where the good
Let me
shit
tell
is
you,
at.
man, that's where the shit is at.
Yeah, because like
check this shit out.
Well, it is like that whole process, and also like it did feel like reviewing a classic game because it's like, you know, hard as shit. So I've got Elden Ring running on the computer right next to me, and like I jumped onto a platform and then just like I was like, okay, I'm safe, I'm gonna go into this meeting. I just look back at it, there's a fucking huge knight standing there looking directly in my face, and he looks terrifying. I did not know that until I moved the camera up, but that is the kind of thing, that is why I love this game. I pan the camera and I'm like, oh shit, that's going to be a problem. But like that whole like experience of reviewing, like if it wasn't clear, like I love Elden Ring, and like to be open about it, like address the elephant in the room or like the wider room. People are probably being like, yeah, of course he's going to fucking like it.
Yeah, that's me. That's
yeah,
my
you know,
voice.
of course he's going to give it a 10 out of 10.
Yeah,
I'm like, no. It doesn't matter how much I love a creator, how much I love a series, how much I love a game. If the game is shit, I'm calling it like it is. Like, that's how I am. Like,
I think that's something that can cut both ways, right? I mean, I think if you go into a thing, you know, knowing like everything about the past work and all that other stuff, it definitely can create a position where you're like, no, here's why this game is fucking bullshit.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. That's what I kind of wanted to approach this whole game. This whole time I was playing it and for review, I was like, I played it and I was like, oh, this is good. This is really good. And then it switched to this, like, I had this voice in my head that was like, please don't be a 10. 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 I don't want to give a 10 because I've given a few 10s in my time. And like, we can have that discussion of what a 10 means soon, and we will. But like, there was a period where I was looking to nitpick and I just couldn't find things, or I'd find something that would offset that. So like, I gave it a 10 out of 10 and I say that I love it, but I say that, and when I say that, you should know that I did approach it with a level of cynicism that you would probably want from someone who's reviewing a game, even if they have professed to love the studio, the works of that game. I'm also the kind of person where, like, I'm at a period of my life where I see not a lot of value in shitting on things for the sake of shitting on things. Like, out there in public, like, if I ain't got something intelligent to say in shitting on it, I'm not gonna say it. I'm just gonna keep it to myself. So it's like there's no value in that. But I do generally come at games with a critical mind and an analytical mind to see, like, try and pull it apart just to keep my own self and my analytical abilities sharp. And I definitely applied the most rigor I have ever applied to a game to this game. And I came away thinking, this is like an exceptional game. I think it's a masterpiece in a lot of ways. And that's why I gave it what it is. And like, I'm like 70 plus hours into it and I still find joy in things. And like, since publishing our review in progress, I've like slowed down because I realized that there was a period where during the review process where I spent so long trying to get to the end of the game to finish it for review. Right. And there was a period where I went to an area of the map, and I won't say what it is just because spoilers. And there's like a building, you go in the building, there's a lift, and I got in the lift and the lift goes down and down and down and down and down and down, and then it breaks and there's an entire underground kingdom. And you're underground, but somehow when you look up, you can see stars and you're like, this is fucked up. There's an entire game down here. This is really fucked up. In that moment, I was texting Andy Cortez from Kind of Funny, who I was like having a lot of discussions with about the game. That is the moment we like collectively agreed and just accepted the fact that we weren't going to complete this game for review. From that point on, it was so freeing. And that is when, like, that was at the 50-hour mark or something like that. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to start writing. And I started writing on the Sunday. And I was like sitting there and I started writing, and then I played a bit on the side as well, and I got the review done I basically wrote through the night and finished the review like Monday morning at like 4 or 5 a.m. or something like that. I had a few hours of sleep, got straight up and started like working on it again, got it out to QA and got it out and ready and done published. And that was when I was like, now I can play Elden Ring. Now I can finally play Elden Ring. And like, I've gone down to the bottom of the map and I'm like literally just pinballing back and forth through the entire landmass, looking at things to find whatever I can. And that is how I wanted to play it, and that is how it should be played. And I think it's just like, I think it's spectacular. Like, I love it. But I also understand that, I said it in my review, like, people are out there being like, this is the most approachable From Software game ever. I'm like, that shit is a lie. Like,
that's total. That seems like absolute bullshit.
Yeah, it is. It is not. I think there are definitely things that make it more playable, but not approachable. Like, if you're someone, I feel like if you have knowledge of these games, you already know whether you're going to like this game. This isn't turning anyone into a new From Software fan. I personally believe there's obviously going to be exceptions. There's going to be that person who's like, I hate these games. I tried it, and the sense of freedom is really making it worth it for me. But that kind of freedom is kind of counterbalanced by other things that make it quite rough. That freedom in itself is difficult. Like, the freedom to go anywhere means that you have the freedom to go straight to hell and get killed multiple times. And that can be frustrating. You just need to have the personality that when you go straight to hell and get absolutely curb stomped by multiple enemies, your inclination is, oh, I'm going to go do something else. Or it's, I'm going to fight my way up this hill. Most people are going to be like, that sucked. I'm not having fun with this. I'm going to go elsewhere. Mm-hmm. So I feel like at the same time, there's a lot of difficult bosses. The bosses are way more ruthless than this in this game. I also feel like they've been like designed in a way to kind of address a lot of the common tactics and mindsets that Souls players bring to it. There's way more attacks that like have an arc that sweeps back around, because they know that players love to get in that booty and just hide underneath them and poke them from there. So now they have I don't know if this is 100% true, but the amount of times I've been doing too good, and a boss has been like, I bet you ain't seen this move, and just destroyed me.
Yeah.
I feel like there's like a countermeasure to when you're doing too well. It's kind of like how it feels like, oh, it's activating like an anti-cheat mechanism. Right. Where it's like, oh shit, this dude is landing too many attacks repeatedly, and like there's something weird going on. And then the boss will do like this AoE attack or a super crazy, like out of nowhere attack. And you have to kind of like give them some breathing room, if you know what I mean. It's still stuff that you can counter. Like, I had it happen to me yesterday, and I was like, I know how to get around that, but now I know that you have that. And I was like, and there's a kind of like, it's kind of like a cruelty to that, but also something that I love, because when I did that, I was like, I'm fucking wrecking shop right now. This dude has no chance. And then out of nowhere, it was like, all right, check this shit out. And I was like, okay, well,
I think like that cruelty is the thing. You know, it's not always pure cruelty, but like across the game, I think it being brutal is the exciting thing about it. And for me, like, that's, you know, the comedy of Elden Ring is some of my favorite shit. The just like, oh, I got just the number of ways where you just get completely fucked. And it's not like to say it's unfair per se. I feel like it tells you the rules of that world. And at this point, they've made 5 of these things, you know? So it's like, you kind of know, like, hey, this is what you're getting into. But I feel like it's not necessarily unfair. It's just like, it forces you to be on your shit at all times.
Yeah.
And I'm not always that person.
Yeah, I think that one of the smart things that they've done here is, so the Souls games have this kind of pacing that they kind of have like an ebb and flow, a build and release, I think of it as, where it's like the corridors in a lot of their old games just look like corridors for most people, but they're designed to be that way because they give you some time to kind of decompress and kind of build confidence back up. So you'll have a mob engagement, which is quite tricky at times, or it might not be tricky, but like the enemies are positioned in just such a way that it's butt clenching or it's tense. And you have that engagement, or you'll have a night that is particularly like difficult, and you'll fight through that. Generally what happens is like the next few like a minute or so will be some sort of like pathway where it's an easy enemy encounter, or there's just nothing there. So it's kind of like lets you decompress so that you like release that tension, and then they build it back up. And that kind of pacing, the way they've transplanted it onto an open world, is really fascinating, because the open world, the Limgrave stuff, is where that happens. So you have these like pockets of kind of enemies. Like they do it perfectly as soon as you come out of the first step. Whereas there's the first thing you see is that knight on a horse with the gold armor, and you're like, let me go hit him. You do 1 damage. He turns around and he's like, you are nothing to me. And that's where you realize, oh shit, there's stuff in this open world that is really going to give me that butt clenching kind of feeling. But at the same time, if I had just pointed myself to the left a bit, I can completely avoid that. So the open world kind of is a safety net to a degree. There's still a threat around there, but you're so much more in control of how you engage it. What I love about it is like, that is where you can experiment and build your confidence and like build up your ego. And then when you go into the traditional kind of like Stormveil Castle or I don't know, Caelid or whatever it may be, that's where it's like, okay, this is a traditional Souls experience. You better buck the fuck up because it's time to knock the fuck up. And you know, it's going to get rough in here. And that's where it feels a little more like tense and you don't have control over the orchestration. And that's where that feeling of like, this is hard as shit and brutal is more inescapable, if you get what I mean. I love that ebb and flow, that build and release, and that kind of pacing that they have. Like, pacing in open world games is very difficult to get right because the player's in control of their own kind of like pathway through it. Yeah. And I think this game gets it really right because it doesn't try and control your pathway through it. Open world games, they give you more and more, like, we created this genre called the open world, and then we made it closed by making everything like visible for you to do. We closed it off by dumping icons on it. So is it really an open world where you have complete freedom if you're constantly telling players where to go and what to do? It isn't. And I think that fucks the pacing up of a lot of games. Like, I don't enjoy playing modern open world games because they're always telling you to go somewhere and do something. And it's like, yeah, you've told me I've got freedom, but you're telling me the only way for me to do the only thing I can do right now is go here, do this. Whereas I feel like this game fixes that problem by going, this is an open world game and it's paced well because you're in control of the pacing. You go anywhere, do anything. But when you feel like you've hit a wall where the pacing feels off, go and do something else.
Do you think that the game would benefit? I mean, benefit's a weird word, but because it's obviously very deliberately designed. But, you know, I think about, and this is because I just came off of playing Horizon before Elden Ring came in, and that game is full of options, whether it's difficulty options or accessibility options for like how verbose you want the pathfinding to be and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Do you think optionally, if there was something in there, because you hear a lot about people like, oh, here's my notebook, here I'm keeping all these notes. If there was something that just kept very direct track of like, here's information you have learned, and you know, not necessarily like an arrow on a map, but like a, hey, this person told me this about this castle. Like, do you think that would? I think that would ruin the game. Do you think that would be like a good optional thing for people that like? I mean, because I think a lot of people get out of that open world and they're like, okay, I ran up to that horse dude and he fucked me over, and like, okay, what's the other way? Oh, an even bigger thing that fucked me over even faster down in the water. Okay, I'm gonna run east and see what happens. And that's.
I think what you're describing is still of a sense of like guidance, even if it's like note taking, right?
Yeah,
because the game, by it even regurgitating the thing you just heard in a way, is kind of like editorializing the information there.
Exactly. So, and so I think about it in terms of like, as people say out there, like, oh, this is the most approachable one of these yet, which seems crazy, but like, would that be a thing that might optionally make it more approachable for a wider range of people? Or do you think that fucks up the pacing and just ruins it?
I think as an option, anything is good. Anything is possible. Like, if you put that in as an option, sure, why not? I can choose to ignore it. I'm one of the people that thinks put in a difficulty mode as an option. And like, I'm a hardcore Souls player, and I think that people who are like, no, you cannot have difficulty in this game, just as a matter of fact statement, is foolish and stupid. I think I am more inclined to say, hey, the author of these games has said that challenge is important to the vision, and that's why it's not in there. I will never exclude people from saying, from wanting to play this game. So that's my approach. So if it was like their vision to put that stuff in, I think the tricky thing is introducing. Let's take it. Let's say it's not an option, and let's say it is introduced. I think that kind of unravels their design in a big way. Firstly, the thing that everyone is going to point out is they've never done that way. Their design is to be, it's not like, it is obtuse and it is difficult to track, and that is part of the charm of it. But also it's because all of that stuff is kind of tied into other design principles and kind of feelings that they want you to have. So the idea of discovering something and kind of like following leads is super, super important to Souls games, and it's more important in this game than previous games. I think what happens is when it comes to questing, for example, the satisfaction from questing doesn't come from doing the task. It's from finding the next step of that task and engaging with it. So, for example, you find an NPC in, the start of Limgrave. You talk to them. They're like, "Oh, I'm here for X, Y, and Z thing. I wonder if I'll be able to do this thing. Hopefully, I'll see you again, my friend." And then they're gone. They never tell you, "Hey, I am going to do this. I need this to do this thing." It just so happens that when you're playing the game, you might be in a dungeon, turn around and see that character again there, and be like, "Oh shit, this is what you're trying to do." And so, like, you're not the person pushing these NPCs through their journey. They are having their own journey concurrently to you. And obviously you are ultimately the instigator of that, because the things that you do in the world are what push their quest forward. There are some NPCs who, if you don't do the right thing in the world, which you'll never tell you, they'll just stay there. And you might do X, Y, and Z thing, and that might block them out of that quest, and they will just vanish. So there's the idea of like, the Onion Knight in previous Souls games, where you'd only find, when you'd come across him, he'd be in the middle of an engagement going bad, and your role was to kind of help him in that engagement. But by the end of it, you realize that in fighting those engagements with him, you robbed him of his purpose. And you have that moment at the end where you realize, shit, his whole thing was, I want to prove myself as a warrior, and I'm from this warrior nation, and he's here to do his best. And I just got in the way. Like, I thought I was doing the good player thing by helping my bro out. Actually, what I've done is remove this man's purpose, and now he's going to go hollow. That it would not have been possible. Like, that profound moment and that realization would not be possible if the game was like, this man told you to do this. You need to go here now, and you need to go this, because then you'd be like, well, I didn't do that. The fucking game told me to do that. That sucks. So like having like hands-off, unaware agency in the lives of others is so important to this game. And I think that you could probably do something in the way of information tracking. But again, I feel like that feeds into the idea of you making those connections yourself. Right. Like the idea of you going, oh, someone mentioned the Dragonburnt ruins. I'm in this area now. I should see if I can go back and speak to that person, and go back there, and you could be like, I found the Dragonburnt ruins, dude. And it'll be, oh shit, where are you? Where is it? And then that's way better than going, you've just found the Dragonburnt ruins. Why don't you go back and chat to looking for Dragon Man? And I feel like that kind of, that opaqueness is so important to the sense of discoverability and the sense of adventure and curiosity, that introducing a gamified quest log system would undermine it to a degree that I think is significant. But at the same time, if they came out and they were like, we've added this thing as an option to tell you, I'm not going to be like, I'm so mad that other people have a way to play this game that isn't exactly how I play it. Those people can go straight to hell.
Yeah, I think I'm just looking at it in terms of just like, there are going to be people that aren't going to marathon through it, right? They're going to be like, oh, I played some of it, and then maybe next weekend I'll get back to it. And then by the time they get back to it, they're like, I don't remember, like there was a guy looking for something somewhere, and which way was I even going? And I think there's that. I think there's just so many different people might play this game so many different ways that I start to think about like, oh, I wonder if there would just be a better way to get that information to those people without fucking up that balance. But it'd be really, really hard. Cause I know like people say like, oh, you got to keep a journal, you got to write notes. Yes, totally. Like that's how I played Fez, and that was super fun. Like there's aspects of Elden Ring that have made me think a lot about Fez lately. And it's mostly been as people talk more and more about keeping journals and all this other stuff. And, not that they're like literally similar. But it's been that feeling of just like, I don't know that I'm probably not going to keep an Elden Ring journal, and I bet the vast majority of people that come to this game are not either. And so
the closest I have
for them,
the closest I have to like keeping a journal is just littering my overworld map with like a bunch of different markers and just creating my own weird language. Stuff, like the little markers they give you are kind of like vague enough. It looks like a skull or like a dude. So sometimes I will just kind of spell stuff out on my map like an X
in
or like
skulls.
a check. Yeah, it's like
right
yo, this place was bad. Or like I'll the sites of grace, they give little trails on the map also, kind of like a vague guide of where to go. But I have just started to just make straight up arrows with those little beacons, because I'll come across a dude that I don't think I can beat just yet, and then level up a little bit, find some new equipment, and realize I still can't beat that guy. But now I know the general location where that dude is. I don't know. It's just so much happening in this game, and I kind of love being overwhelmed by it, because it's like what Tam said. Like, I was beating my head against the wall with like the first 2 major bosses, and I just couldn't do it. So I eventually just started exploring Limgrave, the first area you're in, opened a chest, and now I'm somewhere that's where everything is red and bad. And it was great. And I explored that area, and then I found some sick poison stuff that I threw in my weapon, and then like, oh, sick, now I can beat everyone, no problem, only to get smashed again and have my ego checked. It's great. I found like a giant hammer that I'm not equipped to use, but then the game is like, but if you use 2 hands, you can do it, buddy. And it's just like,
a lot of things.
All right, well, I don't normally want to use a hammer, but we're gonna use the shit out of this hammer because it looks sick.
What if there was a sword in the hammer?
What if this hammer had a sword?
For what it's worth, that might be in this game. I don't know.
If there's a Kirk hammer in this game, I'm in.
I'll say
there are a few hammers, but I haven't found anything close to a Kirk hammer yet.
Oh,
sadly.
damn it.
I would have loved that.
Sadly.
no whip either.
Just mod one in.
Yeah. It's only a matter of time before someone mods that in. Hammers are so good in this
modded
game.
in the ability to pause.
Oh, have they?
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
I mean, that's one thing that I'm like, okay, that's fine. But again, you can make a case for why that breaks the tension, right?
Well, also, yeah, totally. Plus, it's an online game, and like if people are going to invade and do whatever, like you need to be on that server, and that's just
For me, like the
moments,
the moments in a fight where like the tension of the fight, the inescapable nature of it has either led to a make or break moment. In both scenarios where I've made it and I've broken it, like have been like exhilarating and also heartbreaking. And to like remove those, it kind of like is, I can see why it would be a problem. I would have no problem with like putting a pause in the main kind of like overworld area. If you're not in combat and you're like in the overworld, just hitting pause, that's fine, yeah. But if you're in a boss fight, it ain't gonna work. But I think they don't do that because it's confusing, right? You can't have one rule for one area, another rule for other area, because gamers are dum-dums and they're gonna be like, why?
I think that's part of it. But also just like it being connected to a server, I think probably creates some logistical issues there too. But
yeah, for sure.
I don't know. For me, like there's, sometimes a diaper has to get changed. And it's sometimes it's going to happen in a boss fight. Sometimes it's going to happen in the overworld, and like that's just a reality when it comes to this sort of stuff. So when games don't pause, like I get it, and I think that makes sense for a lot of games, a lot of modern games. Yeah. But it also creates a situation where it's just like, oh, okay, I need to just deliberately wipe now because I have to go do something. And,
I did ask.
Feels like shit.
I did ask Miyazaki about this, and he said, "I don't give a fuck about anyone's kids." So,
okay,
yeah, throw them in a poison swamp.
Man.
Fuck them.
He was like,
all right.
I was like, babies don't give a shit.
Yeah,
I was like, all right, fair enough, man.
Totally.
It's tough to follow up Tam talking about fucking Elden Ring, man. But I think for my little slice of this game so far, as someone who has wanted to so desperately break into this club that I have been, like red roped out of, but for now that what I've come to the conclusion is my own doing, really. I think this is the game for me. Do I find it more approachable? No. I've started all the Souls games. Okay, I've started them all. I've not met a Souls game I haven't started. Okay, and then 5 hours later, I'm doing something else. I think. What's that?
I was gonna say, I want you to know, I decided to try to fight that knight I mentioned earlier, and he killed me in one hit.
Good.
Oh,
Good.
That's
He
fucking
looked
good.
at you too long. He got
Yeah.
really pissed. He's like, nope, fuck this guy.
He's like, well, that was anticlimactic. I think this is the first game that has really I finally allowed myself to like understand what all this is, because I had some preconceived bullshit that I refused and blocked my way of sort of like expanding my thinking about it. And I'm not trying to be like all heady about it, but for me, it's just, I guess I just really didn't understand a bit of the language that these games sort of speak. And you know, for whatever reason, this is the one that really opened my eyes to it. I still find it very frustrating and it's incredibly difficult, but I've already been able to make enough tangible progress where I see like, okay, this is the way it goes. I'm not going to finish this game for a year probably, or even ever. And I'm cool with that. And I'm going to learn to sort of live with that.
Yeah, I think I think I'm in the same boat as you, Backlar. Like, before I would have the paralysis of, like, I can't die here because I have too many souls. I really need to level up. I need to get somewhere. But because the open world nature here, instead of feeling like a slow exhale constantly playing a Souls game, like Bloodborne or Sekiro, I feel like, you know, if I die here, it's fine. It's fine. It'll be okay. There'll be like another side of grace somewhere. I'll recoup these runes. It'll be fine. I'll just go the other way. Oh,
just gotta let it go.
There's
the
a
thing
bear
I always
here.
tell myself is like, some motherfuckers do level 1 runs in this game, so none of those runes can matter that much.
Right.
Psychos, but yes.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah, like the letting go is the biggest is the first step for sure. You know, I'm like, it's another situation where people are like, you know, I in a lot of people's lives, I am just like generic video game advice guy, and they're just like, oh, I hear a lot about this Elden Ring. What do you think? And I'm just like, I don't have time. I'm just like, try it out. I'm like, try it out. Like, you know. And the other element to all this that I have not spoken about is, for whatever reason, like I had this notion of like, if I can't do this on my own, I am therefore a failure and I am playing the game wrong, and that is indicative of like me being bad at games. And I think, you know, I'll use Elden Ring as this catalyst of me understanding like, no, you fucking dumbass, like this is not just about you selfish dick. Like, you have to be a part of this community, and it helps to do that, and that's okay to do that. So, you know, having all those realizations has been super dope.
Yeah.
Getting, and you know, similar to like, you know, like I said, I think in the video we did last week of like the PT sort of idea of like, let's crowdsource this, let's like figure this out together kind of thing. I love that. And I want to embrace that in a big way.
Yeah, that's what makes me kind of compare it to Fez a little bit, is because the experience of playing Fez when it came out, and it's a different experience now, but like when it came out and all those secrets were not known, there was a lot of comparing notes, or like when Mortal Kombat would first come out in an arcade and people did not know the fatalities yet.
And it was pre-internet, and you'd have to look it up on a BBS somewhere.
It was not, I mean, it wasn't pre-internet. I was on the internet in 92 or something.
Yeah, I had to pay for minutes on AOL.
Yeah,
that was pre-internet.
Just get a disc and a magazine.
You'd go to you would go to Usenet. I would go to Usenet, and I would go to Alt Games MK, and there would be like, hey, here's all the confirmed Mortal Kombat 2 fatalities today, and here's a bunch that are unconfirmed. And then I'd be like, well, instead of going back to my 5th period Spanish class, I'm going to go to the Pizza Hut and try all these fucking things I saw on the internet and see which ones work. Yeah. And then go back and say like, hey, none of these fucking work. You people are assholes. And so like that, I mean, but Fez is a more direct comparison with like, hey, did you know that there's this alphabet here? Did you know that this is, you know, like, here's how we're solving this puzzle and this puzzle and this puzzle, and getting through it that way. Like, that is exciting. And I think most people will come to this game, and that it's the game just launched. There are still secrets that have yet to be found, I'm sure. I would hope. But, you know, give it a year and you'll just have people that just like go read a wiki and wiki their way through it. And that's how Fez was as well. And I think it's a different, I think the best thing you could do is try to start a game like this alongside a bunch of other people who are also starting the game in a similar time frame, and try to have that version of the experience rather than the I'm just going to look it up.
Sure.
I played Bloodborne at launch, bounced off it, and came back later and tried to stay off the wiki for it because I knew that was not going to be that much fun. But like I finally connected with Bloodborne in a real way, and it was the first one of those. I was like, oh, this is actually like fun. I'm having a really good time with how fucked up this is. And then got to a point where like, okay, I need to look this up, and what's this? I don't want to miss this, and started looking more and more stuff up. But tried to keep that to something of a minimum, and I had a really great time with that game.
Yeah,
and it's kind of the weird thing is like playing Elden Ring. I'm like, okay, I feel like I understand the basics or the basic concepts in play here, but I'm still having that torn feeling of like, the more Elden Ring I play, the more it makes me want to go play Bloodborne again instead.
Interesting.
Because I just think there's something about the aggression.
You wanna roll up with a gun, is why.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
You want to
Makes
fucking
sense.
parry
No,
with a goddamn shotgun? Hell
Yeah.
yes.
No, not so much. But I don't know. There's just something about and maybe it's because I just had more success there, and so I'm just like taking the coward's way out or something. But like, yeah, it's a weird. I'm feeling weirdly torn about it, and I went back and started a different character in Elden Ring and got rid of the Confessor in favor of the Vagabond. The dual sword starts with dual swords. That's Vagabond, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've been having a better time since changing. But yeah, there's still an aspect of just like, I'm not really sure where to go. I'm in this fight with Margit, but I definitely feel like should probably, well, I don't know, like hearing other people talk about it, like apparently there's some fucking ashes I should go get to really fuck that guy up. But
see,
You should also see a doctor. Just saying, like, my man's got some growth.
yeah,
He's got some stuff going on.
He's got some stuff going on.
but yeah, I've kind of got that paralysis right now as well. Like I want it, I want that initial like Demon Souls, experience with it. It wasn't huge in the zeitgeist at that time when you were just learning the game. I want to experience that with Elden Ring, but it's the predecessors have taught me that it's best for me to maximize things and get this weapon first, or take this route, or wait this long to fight a boss or something like that. So I'm in the mindset now, and it's just been ingrained in me that I've got to like maximize my stuff, and I'm trepidous.
I'll say real quickly here, Tam. Like every time I spend my runes, I feel like I'm fucking up. Every time I put a point into something, I feel like that I probably don't understand the system well enough. I'm like, I'm fucking something up.
I think there's an element of that comes from how opaque it is, because you're not sure about what you're doing at that moment. But also, I think a lot of that is like self-imposed mindfucks.
Yeah,
like because you know the world around you is vicious. So this money that you're spending potentially on either upgrading an item could either you want it to make things easier for you, but it generally won't. I think the thing that you kind of just have to kind of get used to is the idea that fundamentally the growth that you should be seeking is personal, like skill-based growth. It doesn't matter how powerful your fighting game character is. If you don't know how to do the quarter circle punch motion at the right time, you're not going to do the move well, and you won't counter, etc., etc. That goes for, I mean, there's some obvious exceptions, but like top tier characters, mid tier characters, we've had Dan's beat up, fucking Shinakumas in our years, but like that's the kind of mentality that I come at it with, and because of that, like I've never had that. I understand where you're coming from, Jason, as well, but like I've never had that feeling of, oh man, I need to max out my thing here. I need to do this thing or that thing. I think it's an easy one to have in your mind from the lineage of the games and the experience with it. But generally what I do is like if I go to a place and I feel like it doesn't feel right, I just take that as a sign that I should go somewhere else for a little while.
And everywhere I go.
Feels right. Everywhere I go.
Yeah, everywhere does kind of feel wrong at times, but like you start to build a sense for This feels wrong because I'm not equipped to be here, and this feels wrong because it's like really challenging me. There's two kinds of ways to do it. So like the game's not it's not like you, oh, this is a hill, I'm gonna go somewhere else. Now it's a flat plane for me to walk along. Everywhere is a hill. There's just different gradations of a hill. There's some that you know that you can take right now, and it will be a struggle to get up that hill, but you can do it. There's some that you're like, I don't have the stamina for this. I'm too tired. Like I gotta go do something easier. And that's how it feels to me. Like you build a sense, you're able to better identify, like, this is a challenge that I can surmount now, and this is a challenge I clearly can't surmount now. I need to go away and do those other challenges, build up myself, either my own understanding of the game, or like my dexterity, or my comfortability with certain mechanics, or like my character needs some more points pumped into them, or I need a better weapon. And that's kind of like the ebb and flow, or the kind of the trial and error nature of it, that I think is both magical and really fun, but also that thing that makes approachability a little harder, or less likely, because building that sense is also kind of having a good game sense, if you know what I mean, from like years of playing these kinds of games, and also games generally. As people who like have played games all our lives, I think it's easier for us to do it. Like Captain FIFA is not going to pick this up and be like, I get what's going on here. I see what you're trying to tell me, Miyazaki. And he's going to be like, he's like, how do I get an Ultimate Team? Where how do I get the like Ornstein and Smaug card? And you're like, no, that's not how it works. But I feel like that is the kind of approach that I take to it. I really think people will struggle if they try and force their way through this to make progress. I feel like it's an anti-progress game in a lot of ways, even more than Zelda. Like Zelda is always telling you, hey, you should go and see this, this town where the fish people are fucking doing fish shit. This game never tells you, hey, you should go here. It's just like, figure it out.
Yeah,
have fun.
I mean, kind of, at every site of grace, there's arrows pointing where you should go, supposedly. But
I've had times where I follow those arrows and it's taken me to places it's like, no,
exactly,
bro, what are you doing here?
Yep, and sometimes that kind of pisses me off, because it's like, you are not respecting my time. Like, what are you telling me to do here?
So like, I think those like,
kids. I don't have any more diapers to change, but accidents happen and shit gets messy, and I gotta deal with it.
I think that's kind of like the difference, where it's kind of like that modern game mentality, like the way we've been trained to be led in such a way where when a game says, hey, this will keep you on the path, we expect them to mean this is going to take you to the door of where you need to be. Those kind of like guidance of graces are more like, there is something here for you. There's something of relative importance here for you. And not like, this is the next step on your journey. Let us take you there to it. And I realized that quite, not early, but like it took me a little while to realize that, and it was through the process of following the guidance of grace, and then being in a place where I'm like, you told me to come here, but I can't do anything. And it's when it dawned on me, where it's like, oh, it's just showing me the main points that I should come back to at some point. And that's all those are. None of those are an indication of this is where you should be going now, because you are ready to do this now. There's nothing in here that tells you that. It's completely like hands off with that. And there's other statues as well, which are like these like old ladies just pointing at something. And when you interact with them, they lead you to a kind of like they do like a path, a light path.
Like in
that's just
Genshin
them
Impact.
That's just them saying there's a dungeon there. And it's not saying there's a dungeon there you can do because you're at the right level. It's just like, maybe you go in there, maybe you're going to get your shit rocked. Mm-hmm. Have fun figuring it out.
And that's part, like what you're talking about is this, it describes like the learning that I kind of went through too, where I like, it's totally true. Like, I've been playing games for over 30 years, right? And I really learned a lot of like shit about a very specific way a game should, quote unquote, be in those 30 years, right? And I think a lot of that is like me being like, oh, well, this game is just not any of those other ones. It is truly the epitome of an open ass thing. And that's what it is. Like, once I kind of like swallowed that and was like, okay, this is actually the raw version of a open world game. Like, this is like
a deconstructed open world game.
Yeah, like this is it.
it connected, like the connection that made sense to me was seeing some of the interviews out there talking about, like, you know, that this is, you know, what if you took a lot of the concepts of early RPGs of like the wizardry era and turned them into, you know, third person action adventures, and that being a mentality that they went into making this game. It makes a lot of sense, because when you go back to even just like some of the stuff that was maybe a little bit more polished, like the, you know, the gold box D&D games, Pool of Radiance and some of that shit, like there wasn't a lot of like, hey, go here, do this. It was, they were trying to build a role-playing game in the truest sense of just like, all right, man, I don't know, there's a fucking sewer here. Maybe someone will pay you fucking gold to go in the sewer and murder rats, but you're gonna have to find that person. And the Wizardry series, as it kind of picked up steam in Japan in a way that I didn't realize it had for decades, until like realizing like, oh, what, there's like a zillion Japanese language versions of fucking Wizardry, really?
Yeah.
And that being a weird thing to discover, you know, 10, 15 years ago. Like it all kind of clicks in a sense where you're just like, okay, I get it. It doesn't mean I'm good at it. It doesn't mean that I am always going to get it, but it's like that mentality, you see it on display a lot more. And it, you know, like those are very much games that I did play as a kid growing up, and would just get fucking lost in them for hundreds of fucking hours and just be like, I don't know, I'm just going here to go here, and I'm not even sure. I don't know, there's kobolds here, so I have to fucking hit them with my club, and that's what we're doing. And yeah, I don't know. It's pretty awesome in a lot of ways to see like a game that feels like it is trying to be a modern realization of those concepts, because that's not even, a lot of people I think when they talk about these games, like it's old school hard, or just like some dumb fucking, you know, thing, but it's not. Like when you go back to what we think of as the kind of classic American, you know, releases of video games, you know, in the West, and think about like NES games and stuff like that. It's like it's Nintendo hard or whatever fucking dumb shit people fucking say on TikTok about it. It's fucking crazy, but it's not even that. It is like old school weird fucking computer game.
Yeah.
It is like, hey, we're exploring the space in a way that no one has yet, because people haven't made these games at this scope before, like a lot of those early role-playing games. And I think that's fucking crazy. It's fucking crazy. It's awesome that like someone sat down and said like, we want to make a game like that. But it's like, it's just insane to think about it, because like those games came and gone, you know, by the time the NES got popular here and things kind of, when we were off to the races with consoles and all that other shit, like that type of game basically went extinct for fucking decades. And then, you know, then we stopped putting manuals in boxes, and games had elaborate tutorials, and games felt like, here's a 40-hour tutorial with a boss fight at the end or something, you know? And so to have a game come out and have a series of games come out, I guess, really, to be deliberately not that, and deliberately taking inspiration from this thing, it's fucking awesome. I don't know if this game is for me, but when I play it, I am having like I feel like I have a pretty good time with it until I don't, you know? And it's like, but for me, it's been a case of like, well, I ran around a bunch of places, I killed a bunch of dudes. I don't think I made any real progress, but I sure had fun sticking these motherfuckers. And I put one more point into Dex, you know, or whatever. Like there's some like goal that I felt like I achieved. Like, oh, I uncovered a few more bonfires. That's cool. And I'm seeing more of the world. Look at this. Here's a fucking fucked up poison swamp. Look at that. And so like that's leading to a sense of accomplishment that a lot of games can't even, like, you know, that doesn't happen in other games. You know, like, oh, I made it to the fucking water temple. Like no one fucking cares anymore. Like it's kind of awesome to have that feel like it's a big deal.
For sure. Yeah. And like the kind of, like I was at a time, I said it before, where I just open world games I find exhausting now. Like I just find them, like I opened Horizon and I was like, oh god, here we go again. Aloy is going on about literally everything in front of her face nonstop, and this icons are building up, and it's like going
that game to this one, like literally like minutes apart.
Yeah.
Going from like, Elden Ring came in, it's done downloading, great. All right, I'm gonna turn off Horizon and then pivot this way and then play over here. It's fucked.
Yeah, it's wild. Like yeah, I've had a lot. Like I'm one of those people which same as you guys. Like I'm very conscious of time and like I like the feeling of progress. I like the feeling of accomplishment. Like for me, a lot of playing the games, like I'm not fully satisfied until I've like finished the game. That's when I'm like, oh, that was good, and like I feel like I've done something with that. And so like it was a massive surprise to me when I went into this game, and it's like, oh, I don't. There's no way for me to do that. It's freeing to just be like, oh, I have to just find joy in the small victories. And that's what this game is about. Like I mentioned it in my review, like the act of discovering is where the satisfaction is. And you kind of have to train yourself, or you have to be a certain type of person to really value that. For some people, like even I'd say, like I'm not the kind of person who's like, I love seeing a vista in the distance. Like I find it impressive, but I don't draw satisfaction from it. I draw satisfaction from I pressed these buttons and landed a 4-hit combo that ended in a a dragon punch or something. I'm a mechanical. I like to hit buttons. That's my whole thing. But like I found myself just being a very different kind of player in playing this game, and it's an experience that it's going to sound quite fucking a bit like hoity-toity, highfalutin, and also a bit like emotional. But like, it's a game that I really needed. Like, I started to reach a point where I was like, I'm really not vibing with a lot of games right now, and I'm trying to figure out why that is. And I found in playing this game, like it was because the mystery is gone. Like the fun, it tells you. These games these days tell you what the fun is, and then let you have it. Like this is the fun thing. Go and do it. And that's not. And that's such a weird. Like that's not like when we played Mario 64. Like we jumped through a painting. It was like who fucking knows what's going to be on the side of this thing? Who knows what wacky thing I'm going to have to butt stomp and like narrowly dodge and like. That has gone. It's not gone. Things are telegraphed like hours before you even get there. And it's even things like racing games where it's like all racing games are open world now. So it's like, hey, we've got a street race over here. Just put your thing on the marker and then follow this line. And if you go off it, your car's going to spin out. And I can't play racing games anymore that much because like the moment I leave the road, it's like I'm spinning out and like I'm suddenly like terrible at this. Like I remember when it was just like, oh, I picked up Burnout. Burnout is a game all about just smashing into cars, and like that's where the fun is. And like like all the cards are on the table before you've even joined the game in most video games. And I feel like this is a game where we didn't really know much about it before we got into it. Like there was some like information going into it. We had some inklings of what it was.
But yeah.
And like there were whispers and I knew things here and there. But I went into it largely blind, and then I'm still blind as to what this game is in a lot of ways. Like there's not a point where it's like, oh, this is a class of quest in this game in the same way it is in like an Assassin's Creed or Horizon. It's like this icon means tail quest. It's completely unclear to me. There's no pattern to it. There's no rhyme or reason. It feels like a completely uncharted world where you're like, I just walked into this dark corner and there is a cave here. Maybe this cave will have nothing in it. Maybe it will have a boss in it. Maybe I'll get an item. Maybe I'll just mark it off my map as a place that I've found. The sense of like complete mystery and the sense of like discoverability and that kind of sense of you feel like the first person in that world, even though you know that there's millions of other people playing it.
That detail definitely for sure.
Yeah, and like the amount of times like you have that impulse where you see something and you just want to tell someone like, did you see this shit? Like, have you seen this shit? Like name one time where you were playing Horizon or Assassins or any other open world game where you're like, I've seen this thing. I need to find out if someone else has also seen this thing, because that's not how it's designed. You know that everyone else has seen that damn thing because the game is designed.
Icon, and we're like, oh, okay,
because the developers of this game made the game so that you would see all the things, and there's mechanisms in place to ensure that you will see those things. Whereas in Elden Ring, this is a game that is designed with no guidance to the point where at any other studio, this would be focus tested to shit, and they'd say no, We spent time, money,
Right.
effort, marketing, and now you're not making it clear where anyone can see this. It wouldn't exist. At any other company other than From Software, this game would not exist.
I didn't know
And
you
it's-
could upgrade your summons until I accidentally spoke to like 2 people repeatedly, and then they were like, "Nah, we fuck with each other. All right, cool." And then suddenly
And how did that feel, Jan?
it felt amazing because then I was like, "I have 12 of these things that you need. I'm gonna make these wolves
Exactly.
hella strong."
Exactly. That's what I'm talking about. I had that same thing where it was like, oh, I can make these two talk, and maybe they'll hit it off, and now one of them is like, I can upgrade your summons, and now my summons are absolutely tearing up shop out there, and I'm like, this is fantastic. I love this.
It's so stupid.
Yeah.
Great.
And that's like the magic of this game, like designed by reduction. Tell people nothing so that everything they learn is a life-changing, ground-shaking moment for them.
That's
And-
true for sure. Oh my god, the fucking the bell. I don't know how I've overlooked that. That was a big deal. But here we go, and that was an eye-opening moment.
I think that can cut both ways in terms of just like, oh, I spent 20 hours banging my head against certain things only to find like, oh, if I had hit this button here, I would have learned a key thing. And that can be really frustrating in some of these situations. But you're right. It's
And like it's a gamble that From Software takes every
Yeah.
time they release a game, and like I just respect the fact that they keep taking it,
Totally.
and they keep putting up more against that gamble. Like they keep putting more money on the table, and they're like, "Fucking, we're going all in," and everyone around them is like, screaming, "Please stop! This is not good. This is a bad bet." And they're like, "Nope, we're going all in again." And you're like, "Hell yeah!"
I
A
don't
few of us-
know that it's I mean, I feel like if anything, the constant discussion about Elden Ring since release, I think only proves that like they're gonna just get to keep making. If that's what they want to do, if they're
Yeah.
like, fuck it, let's keep making these, they will always find funding for it. Even if they can't fund it themselves, someone will step in and go like, we would love to publish whatever the fuck you're doing,
Yeah,
whatever
as-
your insane shit is. Like, yes, let's fucking make something weird. Like they've earned that in a way that most studios fucking straight up could not.
And it's because no one can make it like them. Like, I hate to sound a bit fanboy, but like I've played many a Souls-like, and let me tell you, straight trash, every single one of them. Like no one does it like they do. Like the best Souls-like you put on the table is still leagues below a Souls game. Even Dark Souls 2 to a degree. Like everyone's gonna say Neo 2 or Neo 1. I don't care. It's not the same thing. Like, it's not the same thing. I've played Neo 2, and let me tell you, they are very different games. And I don't want to sound snobbish about it, but like, at a certain point, like, it becomes clear how different you have to differentiate. Neo 2 is playable to me because it's so far different from those Souls games. Like, if they were in the same ballpark, the comparison would render Neo 2 like another one of these forgettable Souls-like games. The smart thing Team Ninja did was to make it a bit more different. But like the reason they'll keep making these games is because no one can make these games as good as they do. That's why Activision was like, hell yeah, Sekiro, let's fucking go. And it's why Sony will probably, and Microsoft, if the rumors are true, are trying to lock down some sort of exclusive with them, because you can't get someone to make a Smash Brothers clone and call it PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale and, hope that it works with one of these games, because people will be like, absolutely not. That's not how it works.
Yeah, I saw some footage of that Warner thing.
Exactly. It's the same as Smash. Like, people would keep trying to make Smash. No one can make
Yeah.
Smash, though.
Yeah. No, they can. No, they absolutely cannot. You're right. It's I don't even know how to wrap. But actually, so all right. So you have a review in progress that'll be finalized at some point here. When you go back and beat that night,
That one night.
and all that sort of stuff.
Still just looking at me.
You talked a lot about. You talked a lot about this process.
It's
Do
been
you think you'll change the process? Do you think that GameSpot needs to change its process? What do you think about the day one scored review, the like all of that stuff? Like, you just came off of one of these. I had thoughts when I came off of reviewing Ocarina of Time over 2.5 days, but no one was going to let me change shit. At that point.
I mean, like, I think I see a lot of value in the score day one thing. Let's be 100% clear. Reviews are part of the marketing cycle. But that doesn't necessarily negate any value outside of that. Like it is 100% true that marketing beats factor in reviews. There's a score, especially if it's a good one, that gets folded into trailers, that gets folded into posters, and that will sell games. However, I also feel like the scored review system has value to people who are disengaged from that. I don't give a shit about games marketing. I will buy a game. Like I don't pay attention to that stuff at all. Like I will watch a trailer, but I'm never ever ever gonna be like, I've seen a fantastic trailer. I'm going to now pre-order the game. That shit don't work on me, and I like to imagine that it won't work on most people who are actively engaged in games.
Yeah.
For me, I find a lot of value in like scoring because it's like it's a metric, right? And it's a kind of entry point for a lot of people to consider a game. Like even these days, like if I'm looking at all the games, if I'm not working in the industry but I'm interested in games and I'm scrolling through Giant Bomb, GameSpot, IGN, whatever it may be, and I'm like, oh shit, this game got a 10 and I don't know what it is, that's going to get me in there to read the review. And like that is, I think, has value. And I also think that it's a good capstone. Like it doesn't have to be a 10-point scale. It can be a 5-star system. It could be like how many hamburgers out of 10, whatever it may be, like food system, whatever it may be. I feel like there is a value in there. And like there's also an expectation from people, right? They want some sort of score. Some people want a quick at a glance, I've scrolled down, okay, it's a 10, I'll buy it. I like writing reviews. I think I think our system is good. The system that I have, the system that I enforce is I never push people to hit embargoes if I feel like it's impacting their day-to-day, themselves, the workload they have, or their family life. I always you can find any reviewer that I work with and ask them my policies. I will tell, if they come to me and they say I'm having a real rough time, I tell them don't hit embargo, just move on from it. It's not that important. It's not worth your health and or anything like that. I always tell them do as I say, not as I do, because I am a victim of my own mentality. Like I'm from a school of, well, I want to also, like the Elden Ring part, or like the review part of it for me is like, I love reviewing games. I also just want to be fucking done with reviewing the game, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like
I like, just like, all right, get me on to the next thing.
Yeah, it's like getting rid of a kidney stone. Like it's gonna hurt. It's gonna feel good when it's done.
Whoa.
But like, you know what I'm saying? Like I really like writing reviews because
you give it 2 kidney stones.
Yeah. The kind of like,
I think the thing we ran into a lot in like the mid 2000s or just early 2000s, it was a lot of that combined with like there was kind of, we would get pressure from a lot of different places, a lot of weird places as the years went on, to have timely reviews. Yeah. And so that it was that balancing that element of just like, look, sometimes you're not going to hit embargo because a company sent it to us 2 days before it came out and it's a 50-hour game, or like that shit just fucking happens. Or you had to prioritize. You only have so many people and it's Q4 and fucking 8 games show up every day. I mean, now it's more like 80. And you'd always have to make those sorts of calls. And I often felt like I did not have like long-term flexibility.
No.
In terms of that stuff. Like if I had gone in that direction fully, eventually that would have cost me my job instead of the other dumb shit. It would have been like, you're not getting reviews done fast enough, get out. And
these days, like let's be clear, the reason why people want stuff in a timely way is because there's a battle for real estate on Google and traffic and trends. And ultimately the websites that you're reading these things on, they need that stuff to carry on functioning. So that is one big part of it. And like, yes, in my mind, as a managing editor of the website GameSpot.com, which needs traffic and eyes to go, a part of me was like, I gotta have something day one. Like, there needs to be something on the site that says Elden Ring review. And that's why we have the review in progress system, because games you can't, there's a lot of games that are coming out now that you cannot make a definitive call on at that moment because of the way it's designed, rolled out, or
online
whatever it may be.
Code, like
online
testing,
netcode, exactly,
like all that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. But there's also the case that that review in progress system serves that function, so you can put a review out for a game and then be like, hey, I'm going to carry on playing this and I'll update you with it, with my kind of like progress on it. But also it gives, I feel like, the writer in other scenarios leeway to be like, in this scenario, for example, I realized I couldn't complete Elden Ring by the embargo date, so I did it as a review in progress because then I could have that out there and then come back to it later, and it serves 2 masters. one, it takes the pressure off me. Two, there's something on Google, on websites that says Elden Ring review. Yeah. So I feel like that's a good way to get around the issue. I think the thing that, like, this is going to sound like me offloading responsibility, but publishers need to be better about giving codes to the, and I say this knowing that this is an incredible privilege that we get free games early to write about them, and I don't mean it to sound like me trying to demand shit from people who have no real obligation to do it, but what I'm saying is, like, if you have a massive game like Elden Ring, give it to the people that you want to review it, because ultimately you want to review it because it might be part of your marketing cycle. Give it to them early enough that they can make a kind of review of it without killing themselves, because when they do kill themselves, it could skew their kind of like take on it in a lot of ways. Like I was tired reviewing this game. Like I'm so tired playing this game. The other day I tried to stand up out my chair and I couldn't physically do it. Like that's and like I could not stand up. It's because I've been sitting at my desk playing this game non-stop. And this is gonna sound like fucking woe is me. I chose to do this.
Yeah.
But that doesn't negate the fact that it has a physical and mental impact on people, especially when you're trying to hit a deadline. The mental, like, also, I'm going to say this, it's going to get real spicy. If you haven't reviewed a game, you ain't got a fucking clue what it's like to review a game. You pieces of shit on Twitter atting me, being like, oh, why don't you just do this and this? Shut the hell up. You ain't got a clue what it's like to review a game. It is hard. Okay, again, I say this as someone who's very privileged and I get to do this. I love it. Like, I get paid to write reviews. But like these shit munchers on Twitter and social networks that are like, why don't you just do it? Shut the fuck up. You ain't got a clue. You have no frame of reference. You have no idea what you're talking about. I don't want to hear it. Like you probably have you never worked to a deadline in your life. You're just sitting in your basement or in where the hell you are, just mouthing off on Twitter.
Well, I would simply just be better at the game.
Yeah, I would be better at the game.
Yeah.
No, you wouldn't. Like I said, I put it out on Twitter. I'll say it again live. I'm better than you at video game. Pick any video game in the world. I'm better than you at it. That's
it's a lot of fun to fucking. I mean,
view that. Like, hold that L, all of you. Like, you are not performing better than me. But like, imagine having to do that and then taking everything you've experienced. Most people, they play the game. They're like, I don't like the graphics on level 2. I wish they'd be tightened up, and then they move on with their lives. No, imagine taking everything that you've played and then needing to formulate a coherent, engaging, kind of convincing argument for or against that flows well, that is fun to read, that holds interest, that is serving so many different purposes. It's creative writing. It's not. It's analysis. It's an essay. Like, pick the hardest essay you've done in your educational history, which everyone goes through. It's harder than that, because you're like under way more stringent time pressure. And if you have games coming in super late, that just makes it triple, quadruple, quintuple the kind of effort. So like, give people the ability to really formulate thoughts and intelligent discussions points about your game, because your game might be bad, but if someone has the time to really think about it, like Austin is someone who worked here and did amazing work and continue to. I loved reading Austin's work, because even if something was shitty, there was something he could phrase it. And Jeff, you've done this. Like, everyone's done this in the industry. Like, if you've reviewed games, like, you're able to, if you have the time, you can find a way to create an interesting discussion point around something that sucks. Yeah. If you have the time for it. However, if you've got 2 days, you're just gonna be like, this shit sucks. It's whack. Enter. Publish.
There's no fun in that. You know, because like now imagine it's November and you're trying to do that with 3 games at the exact same time.
Yep.
And like that was like, or like a console launch, and I've got like a PS3 with a Wii stacked on top of it, running 2 different games on 2 different TVs at literally the same time, and we don't have enough hardware, so I've got to pass it off to someone as soon as that review's done. So it's an extra deadline on top of a deadline on top of a deadline. I've fucking churned out some fucking shit work before, but the numbers were right, so at least there was that. But yeah, man, it's fucking. It's brutal. I mean, the decision, we didn't do the review in progress thing because, we knew we weren't always going to loop back around to them, but it's how the quick look basically got formed. It was out of an idea of like, we need to have something on day one. So when people are looking for information about a game, we have it. Now, you could make the very cogent argument that, putting up a video and not written text is not going to help you in any kind of fucking PageRank, Google, whatever, because they don't give a fuck about videos still.
Yeah, for sure.
But and we definitely don't call them reviews in progress, so it doesn't have the keyword of review in it and all that other shit. But that was a game we were lucky enough to not feel like we had to play. Would we be bigger now had we played it? Probably. Probably. Yeah. There's a lot of fucking things we did deliberately to say like fuck SEO because we don't want to play that game, that if we'd played it, we would probably be in a somewhat different position these days. But
yeah. But like long and short of it, like reviewing games is very hard, and I don't think it's entirely up to the publications to fix it. I think the broader games industry, publishers, developers get away with not engaging in that conversation. Yeah, especially because like, again, not to assign blame, but like reviewing is crunch. Like fundamentally it is crunch. Like it doesn't matter how long you have. Like most review get 90% of the games, 95% of the games that I've reviewed and have assigned reviewed is a crunch. Like they have to play these games within a week and write about them, and there is neglect being doled out to family, friends, self in a lot of ways. I try and minimize that as much as possible as someone who's been through it, but like it is crunch. And if you think about it, it's crunch enforced and kind of dictated by certain other parts of the industry. And I fully accept that sometimes it's just not possible to give out code. Games are very, very difficult to get, finished, certified.
Yeah, the games come in so hot. Like, I mean, think about Elden Ring alone was patched, twice over the course of the review process? Yeah. Like, and in meaningful ways. So I just, like, that's the thing. Like, I agree with you. I wish that games came in earlier and that maybe like a review cycle was considered as part of that overall process. But you give developers any extra time, they're going to use that time on patches and all this other stuff. Like, it's never gonna. The only options you have is, I feel like, realistically, the only option you can have is to start reviewing more and more non-final code, which is, that's what magazines did in the day. They were long lead, they had to, and they,
Game Informer still does that.
Yeah, Game Informer still has to do it, and I'm sure that they get what they always got, which was like, here's like a submission copy. And here's a list of what we intend to patch by day one. And you have to take that on faith as like, well, they said they're going to do it, so we've got to factor that into this review that's not going to hit until that stuff has supposedly happened. And that was something that, like, when we started reviewing things on the fucking internet, it was the hope of like, oh, well, we're never going to have to do that again. We're always going to be able to say this is the final product. But now everything is patched. There's a day one patch. There's a week one patch. There's a roadmap that then gets thrown out in favor of more patches. Reviews don't have the shelf life that they used to because games change so much. Not every game. I mean, Elden Ring, I'm sure they'll do DLC. I'm sure they'll fix more and more stuff. But at the end of the day, especially like if you got into the technical aspects of that game, which, if you, like, let's say you hung an Elden Ring review on, hey, it's pretty stuttery on PC sometimes. At some point, that's probably going to be wrong.
I mean, it was wrong when I went through my experiences, because I had it was bizarre to me, and like still is. I had zero issues, like none at all. Like at most I had was like a dip when I spun the camera very quickly in an area that was dense. And so like when people were like, this sucks on PC, I was like, I don't understand, like what's happening. And I had that with PlayStation as well. Like I played a bit on PlayStation and it was running perfectly fine. And then the reports came out. I think they updated that game and like it made things worse by accident.
Or I wonder if it's also like as it's hitting a server to pull in bloodstains and other stuff like that, if that is causing, because the issues I had on PC weren't spin the camera, like frame rate drops. It was like it would just start to for no discernible reason for 3 seconds or something like that, and then pick back up. It didn't look like your average frame rate drop. It looked like some other buffering issue.
Something in the background where
that's really, because like now I play it on PC and I can see some of that starting to crop up, because like I played yesterday on a stream, and I ran through an area that I had run through hundreds of times because I did a bit of grinding in there. And I was like, oh, there's a dip here where there never was before. Like, it wasn't severe, but it was enough for me to notice it and also realize the fact that it was the first time I'd felt it there. So it's definitely like over time, it's become the performance has changed to make it slightly worse.
Yeah.
Which is kind of fascinating. But I think they are actively working on it. And like I ran through that area again just now before we started the podcast, and it didn't happen anymore. I don't know.
Everyone's always actively working on everything. You know, it's the point, right? Is like, you know, there's always going to be some patch that it was something we were starting to contend with. You know, World of Warcraft was the first big one. I've talked about it before, but like it was that feeling of just like, well, we wrote this review of this game, and now it's like 80% of it is like borderline wrong. And you know, what is the mechanism to do that sort of stuff? So I don't know, like reviews in general, I think like you're right. And I think that I still feel like that scored reviews make sense for, I always felt good. Like as people started taking scores off reviews back then, when I was still doing reviews at GameSpot, it was that feeling of like, we're speaking to a larger audience. There's a mainstream consumer here because GameSpot was so fucking big and reaching so many people. It felt like, well, we have to put a score on this because most people are not going to read the review, and they're going to like, they want some at a glance view that's going to tell them even if they should care about the game. And it was when GameSpot redesigned most recently, well, not most recently, but like when we came back to CBS and GameSpot got redesigned with our tech and all that other stuff, there was a new reviews page hitting around that time. And I was very much like, you should put the score at the top because it's going to be vital information for a person who might not have time to read the whole review. And there was pushback at the time because it was like, well, if we put the score at the top, no one's going to read the review. And that's when I kind of said like, okay, you do you. But like what I wanted to say is, fuck you. Who cares? Who cares if your review is getting read or not? Like, you want to serve the reader however you can. Yes, of course you would love for them to read the review. You'd love for them to fully engage with everything. But it was this thing of just like, just give, different people are going to want different things. And it's okay if they want to score as long as they want it for the right reasons. The thing that always rubs me the wrong way is increasingly it just feels like scores are just meant to fucking have some fight about Metacritic.
Yeah.
And it's just fucking
what
whatever,
you brought up
man.
Earlier, Tam, about the relationship. I mean, I guess it's a thing you like. I, for whatever reason, is still feels like it's maybe a secret. I don't know, but the relationship that just exists, right? Like where you are just not going, like the way things have evolved to now is that games are just not available with a long enough lead time to play it the way
some publishers are better about it than others.
Totally.
But as part of their, I feel like both Sony and Microsoft are quite good at getting games out earlier than most.
So, you know, until something with that relationship changes, and again, there isn't like some sort of, you know, lobbying force that's like really working hard to make sure there's enough lead time so that a reviewer has ample amount of time to get that not, you know, crunched take of what this game is. I think what will bend in that is the idea of like you said, like a review being a living organism too. Like that's it.
Yep.
Unfortunately, when every game does that, when every game needs, you know, a year of updates to its reviews, no one has the staff for that. No one has time to, you know, for the biggest games, of course you can, but you know, if you're not applying that evenly, is that fair to the smaller game that maybe fixed all its issues, but no one noticed because it was too little too late? Like it's, I don't know. And I guess like I'm also of the mind of just like, as the marketing cycle changes, the scored review is cool for your score trailer and all that other stuff. But, you know, I feel like publishers are reaching players in so many different ways today than they used to, that I just feel like that stuff has, like there is still a place for it, but at the same time, I feel like it has never mattered less. Than
influence is a hell of a
sure
thing.
I mean I mean the where that money gets spent, and you know, Instagram campaigns of this and that, and like there's just or hey, you know, there's been plenty of cases. Warner used to do it all the time of hey, we've given this game to a bunch of streamers with a bunch of strings attached, and they are going to be streaming the game that you are held under embargo for the next week and a half. And you're sitting there playing it going, I don't think this game's very good. While there's a week and a half of people going, this is the most amazing game I've ever played.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's insidious, man. So it's like, yeah, I don't know. I not that everyone is out there trying to just fucking pull the wool over someone's eyes, but like the marketing end of this shit has gotten muddy in a way that it used to not be. And it's just it's a hard game to play. And I don't think it's necessarily in companies' best interests anymore to get review code out earlier. Because that's a roll of the dice, because the press is the thing that they don't actually control.
Yeah.
They can go out and buy someone's message much cheaper than rolling the dice with the press. It's the thing people don't get. A lot of people are like, oh, the press is they're so bought off. This review got paid for, this and that. It's like, nah, we'd all be fucking rolling much fucking sicker and deeper and fucking crazy fucking cars and all this other shit if that was the case. We'd be doing much better than we are.
Wouldn't be in my
I'd
kitchen.
have 20 keyboards instead of 15.
Exactly right. Yeah, it's that money doesn't fucking exist on this side of shit. They're already spending it somewhere else. So, yeah, I don't know. Well, okay, that's Elden Ring. It's out now.
It's really good. I like it.
Yeah,
Pretty cool.
It seems fucking awesome. We've got like a zillion other games and a whole bunch of news to get to too. So why don't we take a break and we'll come back and talk about Babylon's Fall. How about that, huh?
Oh, jeez.
We're back. And we just want to, on the other end of the break, say thanks again to Tam. You've got to hit the road. You've got proper work to do.
I do. This is proper work, but also I've got more proper work. But thank you for having me. Hopefully I can come back. I'll come back soon if you'll have me. And
talk about
hopefully
something other than Elden Ring.
Yeah.
You know, when you need to fully decompress.
Like if there's an anime on your mind or something.
Yeah,
like
anime.
If you've been online a lot.
Absolutely not. No, definitely.
being online. Totally.
That's
yeah, and hopefully next time I won't fuck things up in the back end.
Hey, that was our secret.
It'll be fine.
We won't tell anyone.
Thank you, everyone.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Take care of yourself.
Bye.
Bye, Tam.
Get some sleep.
Bye.
All right.
All right.
Now we can get into the games that really matter. All right.
Totally.
Yeah. This
5,000%.
Elden Ring shit. Fucking over
God damn.
It doesn't even fit my hand.
Exactly. Babylon's Fall is out in Head Start. Technically, it came out Monday morning, and that was for only people that bought the $100 version of it.
$100 version.
Regular price $60 version of it will be out in a day or two here. This is Platinum's game. Square published this. We got access to this on Monday morning. I know that there's been a demo kicking around that also covers some of this same content, but I guess I'm just prefacing this by saying I have not exhaustively played the game, but I can't think of I'm having trouble thinking of a full-priced video game that has made a worse first impression on me than Babylon's Fall.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
I've yet to play it myself. Watch some trailers, watch some gameplay. This seems very much like not a thing I would be into.
I don't know. It's weird because it's totally a Jason game.
Right. But
so this is Platinum trying to take some aspects of Platinum combat of like well-timed dodges and light heavy attack and some additional stuff like that. I have not seen a launcher yet, but I suspect that there's going to be one in there somewhere.
Yeah, you give me an air juggle, I'll think about it.
Yeah, I'll keep playing and let you know if there's an air juggle,
buddy.
They have taken some of those concepts and put them into a live service game that feels structurally similar to Anthem.
Okay.
And Destiny, I guess, to a certain extent as well. I say Anthem specifically because it's a game where you pick up loot in mid-mission and cannot do anything with it until you finish the level.
Okay.
Like Anthem.
You're not getting distracted, at least.
Right, yeah. Who would want to stop and look at their gear and actually go like, look at this cool thing I found? And so it's... you know, you finish a mission and it triggers a countdown, much like Destiny 2. At the end of it, it's like, oh, you got 10 more seconds before we're going to warp you back to the player hub and whatever. And this game has a full court press of battle passes and premium currencies and all this other stuff at launch that feels presumptuous, I guess. In terms of the quality of the game and the likelihood that people are going to want to engage with that feels very fucking crazy to me. It's a game that launches... Well, first I had to like link my account, and it wasn't the same Square account I used for the Avengers. It was a different Square account, like the one that you would use for Final Fantasy, and you can actually link those two accounts together in their back end, which is even more insane. But anyway, it's... It looks bad graphically.
Okay.
It has this I'm trying to think about a way to describe it. You're running around. I'm a character. There's 3 character classes. The one I picked, I don't know if they all have this, but in Babylon's Fall, I am a lady that has 4 ghost swords behind her.
Yo.
4?
At all times, and it looks like you can equip 4 different swords to 4 different slots for that. And basically it's like I have a light attack, I have a heavy attack, and then you can hit L2 and R2 to involve your ghost guts, or I forget what they're actually called. You have a Tron disc that they call a coffin strapped to your back. And weird tendrils will come out of that at weird story points, but also that will enable you to attack with the ghost swords out of your ghost guts.
Sounds amazing.
So that's like structurally, it's you jump and you have a handful of attacks and that sort of stuff. And it looks bad. It, like the visuals, there's a blur to it that it extends to the UI, and it extends to every menu where like the font work looks shitty and indistinct in a way that it looks like an up-resed PlayStation 3 game.
Okay.
In a lot of ways. And plays kind of like it too. And the visuals are, I feel like the character models look like they forgot to make the high detail version of the model. And it's like, this is the version of the model that you're supposed to look at from like 20 yards away. And then it's supposed to pop in and look better when it gets closer, but it never pops in.
What was it? A mobile game first, maybe, and that's the textures they're using. I don't know.
I don't. Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, no. It's
I wonder.
But it's there's. Yeah, there are just aspects of this game all over it that just feel very low rent, and then also layered on top of that is like this full on. Here's a premium currency. Here's our roadmap of patches, including a Nier Automata skin tie-in.
Back in, baby.
Yeah. That's all it takes. They knew that they would fucking scam some suckers by just going like, "What if you look like what if you look like 2B?" Like, all right, okay. Here's $15 for a 2B skin. So I've not played any multiplayer yet. I saw some other humans running around the hub, but when I started my mission and waited to see if other people would join it, it has like a Monster Hunter-esque sort of like, you've started the mission, but there's empty slots here. You can just ready up and go, or you can wait. And no one connected to the game, so I just went in, even though it was the first mission in the game, and the game had just come out earlier that day. And so it's also broken up, like when it does the platinum thing of at the end of every encounter, it grades you on it, and it'll say like, oh, you got a bronze rank, or you got pure platinum, or whatever, which is like, it just, it feels so sad, because I look at that fondly as like, I've liked a lot of platinum games that have had this, and then this has it, and you're like, oh, but this is not a game on par with the gameplay of those things at all. And it also results in the encounters being very broken up with just like, and again, this is from the intro mission and the mission I played after that. So, late game may be completely different. Again, I want to just give that caveat. It was corridors with nothing in them, and then you get to an area where people could stand, and then enemies pop up out of the ground, and you fight them, and then it gives you a grade, and then you run through some more corridors to the next little open area, and you fight maybe 1 or 2 more waves there, and it says you got a bronze, and you're like, fucking whatever, and then you go on to the more corridors, and sometimes there are damage-inducing spikes in the corridors that you have to jump over.
Ooh. Dang.
You just jump over them and keep going. It's not like oh my god, and it just seems profoundly bad. Like, remove all the live game stuff from it. I think the action feels very very rough. If you time your dodge perfectly, it'll do kind of the Bayonetta thing of slowing down and automatically warping behind and all that sort of stuff. But the attacks don't feel. None of the attacks feel like they have any oomph.
Okay.
And again, I will give them the benefit of some doubt here and say, like, this is with level 1 starting weapons, blah, 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 blah. So maybe when you level up, I don't know. I don't know that I'm going to find out, again, because the first impression was so bad, but I now feel some sick duty to see a little bit more. Just the sickest duty. To see just a little bit more of it or something. But it just seems profoundly bad.
Wow.
In a way that you're like, I don't understand how this game happens. I know they've run multiple beta tests and that the reactions to those has been largely negative from players, from at least from what I've seen.
Same.
And so maybe some of this was expected, and obviously the demo that's out there now, I think your progress carries over into the full game, so it's literally the opening to the game. So you could play this stuff for free, I think. It also has a lot of crazy UI shit, where menus are just like there. I had one menu pop up that was still partially in Japanese.
Cool.
The camera, I took a picture of this and posted it to Twitter. It asks you if you want to invert the camera either horizontally or vertically, but instead of saying normal or inverted, the options just say no or yes. And it's just like camera adjust, left, right, no. And you're like, wait, what is that? What does that fucking even mean? And it's not hard to figure out what exactly that means, because you can just move the camera. But it's just like insane. Just look at it and go like, how? Like if these are the sorts of weird mistakes that are being made around the edges, you just look at it and go like, okay, clearly like some localizer spent like 20 minutes. I don't know, whatever. Like it feels like it was not handled with care. Another example is, so you get your loot at the end of the mission, and it pops you into a menu that is suspiciously like, it looks a lot like the Anthem end of mission menu in terms of just like, here's the shit you unlocked. Do you want to equip any of it, or do you want to do anything with it? And the options are, you can favorite a thing, or you can select it. It says like, hit this button to select or deselect it. And I'm like, I don't know what that means. So I'm thinking I should probably select everything I want to keep, right? I'm selecting the things I want to keep, right? And then I hit select on everything, and then I hit the let's go forward button, and then it pops up and says, "Great, you sold all this shit for $5,700." I'm like,
wait,
I wanted to keep that.
Well, that was the stuff I was hoping to keep.
Thanks.
Game. Like when you accidentally donate garbage bag full of clothes.
Oops.
Yeah. I was like, oh, that was going to be stuff that was going to maybe, level. I was going to equip that armor and have like a higher gear score. Oh, that was my stuff. Okay, I guess I just gave all that stuff away, and now I'm going to go into the second mission with all the same shit I had in the first mission. So that's when I turned it off.
Fair.
Yeah,
sounds like you're having a good time.
Yeah, seems like an awesome time. Your weapons don't feel like they're doing a ton of damage. The strikes don't feel impactful. So like even that base level combat doesn't feel as good as a Platinum game should. I mean, this is Platinum we're fucking talking about here.
They have a reputation.
Yeah, when it comes to like,
unfortunately, it's gone bad as of
they've maybe made a few stinkers over the years.
I blame the ghost hands if the swords don't feel like they're hitting.
Yeah,
the ghost hands aren't real.
Yeah. But just I don't know, like it feels like that aspect of the game, like the combat itself, which is the thing you would hope would be, at least remotely dialed in. That stuff feels terrible.
Damn it.
And so that's
okay. Groovy.
That's Babylon's Fall. It's coming out in a couple of days here. I don't think I recommend finding out more about it. But again, this is from a first hour and a half of play or whatever. So I don't know. Maybe we'll do a video with it at some point here. It's rough. It's real rough.
Fun. Okay.
I don't know what's wrong with me. After hearing all that,
Me
I
neither.
want to check it
mean,
out.
Just to get that out there.
Yeah, that's
It's like, like looking at a car wreck. It's like I can't stop.
there's a believe me, I get it. Like I have been drawn to bad games a lot over the years for that very reason.
Time is so limited.
Yeah, but yes, don't do it. Don't do that to yourself.
God,
That said, it does have 4-player co-op, and if we wanted to do a video with it, it would make sense for the rest of you to get into Babylon's Fall with me.
For all the wrong reasons, which is like, I don't know. I don't know. Is that always, are you always getting out of that what you kind of want? Or does the
This
void
job is
start
not
to stare
about
back at
getting
you?
what I want out of it. This job
Yeah.
is about helping people. And
Ugh.
if we can put up a video that helps people know more about Babylon's Fall before they spend money on Babylon's Fall,
And we've done our duty.
mission accomplished.
Our sick duty.
Or maybe it gets awesome. Who knows? Maybe the third mission in that game is incredible.
Yeah.
Yo, you get one more ghost hand sword.
Oh,
Game
shit.
changes.
Okay, yeah. It also has a message that pops. It is on the character select screen at all times, informing you that you cannot delete characters.
Okay.
It's like once created, they cannot be deleted. And you're like,
They've
wait a
been
minute.
minted. Great.
Can I just keep creating them forever? Then is it what?
Yeah. How's that work?
Here's a good question. Mento in the chat asks, is it worse than the Dark Alliance reboot? I'm going to say yes. This feels worse than the Dark Alliance reboot to me.
Okay.
No.
Anyway, perhaps I will trick some more of you into
God damn it,
watching me play Babylon's
Don't
Fall
need
at
to
some
trick me,
point,
buddy.
or we'll record a video or something, try and do something with it.
I did already redeem that code. Damn
Yeah,
it.
exactly. You're on the hook
Shit.
now.
Yeah.
Another platinum game. We played this on the show on Friday. Soul Cresta.
Yeah.
This is a scrolling shooter, a good old STG. Soul Cresta is basically the third game in a lineage of Moon Cresta and then Terra Cresta. Platinum did not make those games. Those were, like Moon Cresta is like from 1980 or somewhere around there, 79 maybe even. It's like a Galaxian era shooter where you can dock the ships and make a cool big ass ship.
Yeah.
And then Terra Cresta I was not a huge fan of because it was not Moon Cresta. But Soul Cresta is interesting. Like you basically dock the ships together and then you can kind of reform them in different formations that give you different shot patterns and you can it has like some fighting game input type stuff. If you want to shoot sideways, you can kind of do a quarter circle and there's interesting shit there. It looks very muddy. Like they tried to take polygonal models and then I don't know if they scaled them up and then scaled them back down again. And like there's just a level of filters on them that looks really funky in a way that does not, you get the impression they're trying to achieve the look of an old arcade game. And I don't think they accomplish that. It looks kind of fucked up. There's probably a better way to achieve that effect than what they did, but
It does have an odd look where I wasn't quite
a very
sure.
odd, kind of muddy, indistinct look, which is actually similar to what I would say about Babylon's Fall now that we're thinking about it. But so that's out now. It seems fun for what it is. And Yuzo Koshiro did the soundtrack, and so that's pretty exciting as well. But yeah, I played a handful of levels of that, and it seems okay. Jason, you played some Shadow Warrior 3.
I did. Yeah. Not a ton. I just got it yesterday, but I went through the initial training intro, as it were. I will keep this pretty brief. It's really not much different than Shadow Warrior 2 or the first the remake of Shadow Warrior 2013.
Yeah,
as it were.
The modern Shadow Warriors.
Yes, where they try to Duke Nukem up. Lo Wang, I think he already was.
I feel like in the original game it was like
one-liners.
What if we took the Duke Nukem thing but made it also mad racist?
Yeah, there was that. There was definitely that. I want to say that they're probably continuing that tradition. Because everybody's got a very Asian-y accent. I'm not one to judge, because I don't have that accent, but I don't know how good it is. They changed voice actors, I guess.
Okay. I feel like Shadow Warrior 2 was a weird video game and it was a weird follow-up to when I think about the original Shadow Warrior and what it was. Like, it just was like,
if you remove Lo Wang from that game, like all his quips, it was a visceral, like, loot shooter.
Yeah.
With a lot of really cool movement options. You could dash in the air and shit like that. And it felt good to chop people up with your katana. I had a lot of fun playing that. The loot was cool. It was like a Borderlands type.
Which is weird because it's like more of a linear video game than the kind of open world of Borderlands. But yeah.
But yeah, there were areas that you would go to that were procedurally generated. That's changed, so it's definitely more linear now. They've taken away the loot, which there goes my interest for the most part. You can climb on walls now. There's a little more verticality to combat because of that. And then they've added like execution style stuff, like, you know, a la Doom. Where you've got to finish enemies or do an execution in order to get ammo back. And there's a grappling hook now as well. So they very much had Doom Eternal in mind. I think when they were making this. It's fun. I mean, for the most part, if you can get past Lo Wang, which is like almost nearly impossible to get past because he's quipping nonstop, and they're really no good. They're no good.
That's fucking rough, man.
It is. It is really rough, and it's a shame because it looks really cool. I think chopping up dudes still hella fun. I dig that a lot, and the gun play is like kind of satisfying. You know, there's a game in there, and I still like the air dashing and shit. That still feels super cool, but man, it's tough to get past that other stuff.
Yeah,
it's a shame. But that's out now. I think it's at cheaper price too. I think it's like a $50 game. But
okay.
So there's that. Yeah.
I've been playing Destiny 2. I got back into Destiny 2.
Oh, that witch!
Wow.
This is weird. So the horse was last expansion. That's
old.
Whatever. You can still go do it. That's all still in there. You can still, you know, gain progress that way too if you so desire. But the Witch Queen just came out. And about a week ago, I guess now, and I am having a really great time with it. This is perhaps it feels like Destiny 2 is back on track. Like, this is an interesting chunk of story, and they convey it to you in a way that doesn't necessarily require you to know the names of every single fucking character in Destiny 2 for the last 9 years or whatever it's been.
That's impressive. Wow.
And it is a good straightforward start to it, which is a problem I've had with some of their past expansions, where I got to the big weird hourglass thing and something broke and I couldn't figure out what to do next and basically got stuck at the very beginning of that, whatever the season that was. So gosh, Mars is back. They've unvaulted Mars, and Savathun is here, and all this. You know, you are teaming up with the Cabal to take on a greater threat.
No, they were the threat.
Well,
what happened?
In the previous expansion, you teamed up with splinters of the Fallen splinter group there.
God.
So like, there's definitely.
Are you the baddies?
Always.
So,
but in that previous expansion was all about you embracing the darkness and literally. Taking both light and darkness inside of you as one character. And so they've been flirting with some of that as well.
Evil Ryu.
Here, yeah, exactly. The Satsui no Hado is fucking all over Destiny 2 now. The big thing here is that basically characters in the Hive faction have learned how to use the light, meaning they have ghosts and they can respawn infinitely. Which is an interesting hook from the story, and I feel like is more interesting than the darkness stuff was in the previous expansion. Like, that stuff, I was like very tantalizing at first, but I don't think they paid it off really well. This feels like a more cohesive and interesting plot, and also gives you like a light gameplay change in terms of like, hey, when you kill those fuckers, the same way when you die, there's a ghost sitting there hanging out. They have a ghost that sits there and hangs out that will eventually respawn them. And so you need to run up to the ghost and hit a button. And there's just an animation of you reaching out to that ghost and fucking crushing it. And that's very satisfying. Very satisfying to do. They've reworked one of the subclasses alongside this. They've added a new difficulty to the campaign. So you can play on normal or on legendary. And I thought about playing on legendary. People are saying that legendary is very good and very well balanced in terms of like, hey, this is really difficult, but the rewards also scale in a way that like when you, basically if you finish the campaign on legendary, you will be at the soft cap of the power level for that season, which is like a good place to be. But then I was like, you know, when I think about my past with these expansions, like I don't even finish them for the you know, for months and months. So maybe I'll just play on normal and see how far I get. But you can actually go back and very easily redo some of that stuff from the looks of things too. So that's a good welcome change. They've reworked a lot of systems and stuff behind the scenes in different ways where it's like, oh, the gunsmith rank works differently than it did. And that seems like a smarter, easier system that you don't have to fuck around with as much. And it just basically feels like they are slowly but surely streamlining some of the shit out of that game in terms of how the subclasses had worked before and how some of these things had functioned. And one of the big things you uncover is this gigantic machine that makes guns. Fucking big gun machine, but also it makes glaives. So you get this big long staff that you can shoot out of it, but also it'll do a 3-hit melee combo.
Whoa.
Cool.
And it's fucking super fun. As a Titan, I was already doing a lot of melee anyway, but you just run up in these fuckers' faces and just stick them. And it's it feels very good.
Move over, Gunblade.
Exactly. And you can go back and so like you can shape weapons and you can reshape weapons that you've already shaped is how you'll find weapons in the world that have like a pattern in them. So you use that weapon enough to unlock the pattern, and then you can use that pattern to make another one of those guns anytime you want and basically set which perks you want on them. And as you level up the gun itself, it'll unlock rarer perks that you can go back and basically like re-roll those onto the gun and basically craft it the way you want it. Don't get me wrong, like that's a fucking huge grind. It's not something you're going to be able to like unlock it all in a fucking night and be like, I'm making the sickest guns possible. Like this is something they intend for you to engage with for a very long period of time. And there's currency, you know, not paid or currencies, but there's items you need to collect to basically do all this shit. So there's time involved in doing all of that. But it feels very fun to go back in and be like, hey, this weapon I've been using is awesome. Cool. And I can keep infusing things into it just to make the number higher. But what I really want is like a better version of this perk. And now that this is weapon level 3, I can go back in and fucking do this and put all this shit onto it. It's really fun to just tinker around with that stuff. And this is, this feels like the most fun I've had with Destiny 2 in a good long time.
Wow.
It's really cool. I don't, I'm not going to get raid ready. I'm probably not going to do a raid and find all the, there's going to be end game stuff that I've just, whatever, I'm probably never going to see it, and that's fine. But just the straight up campaign and just the moment to moment action. Again, there's some good ass art throughout this thing, like just some really great looking areas and environments and stuff. I think the thing I wish is for just like, even like whether it's a whole new faction or just like, there just needs to be more new enemies with more new behaviors, like having these hive that have the light that they can respawn. Like that's an interesting twist, but it's ultimately similar versions of these enemies. The one catch is that they can, because they have the light, they can pop off a super same way you can. Oh shit. And so they will fucking go like king and then start fucking launching all kinds of shit at you, which is a fun thing to deal with. And that is a good change. But I wish that there was still like a little more like just a bunch of new enemies, just a whole like here's a whole new faction of whole new enemies, and none of these assets are reused. It's not like the Taken or anything like that. Like they put the Scourge or whatever in there, and that was new. But I feel like we're due for just more new shit. But it's cool. I came away from it. Whatever. I'm still playing it. And like I'm still making my way through it, and having a really good time with it.
Yeah, so. Destiny 2 been dancing around, diving into that, and it seems near imperceptible about like how to make sense of anything, because the
Yeah.
homies want to jump in like fresh from the start, which
Oh, damn.
So that's a very different thing than it used to be, right? Because
Right.
like some of those campaigns and the ways you would level up, that stuff just doesn't exist the same way anymore. So when you start the game now, they level you up to, I think it's 1350, which is a very good starting power level for what is in the game right now.
okay.
And so, you know, like from a story perspective, that might be a little funky, but like you will not feel like you could get into that game and play the newest shit right away and be properly leveled for it.
Okay.
It's not something where you would have to go do a bunch of work before you could play the new shit. You could just jump right in and play the new shit.
I
And
I
the
had
old shit
asked,
scales up appropriately as well. The stuff that is still in the game.
I'd asked the homies if they were at all concerned with lore, and then a friend was like, "Man, this starts out just like the first one. I don't know what the fuck is going on,
That's funny. Yeah.
but I just want to shoot shit, y'all. If y'all still down to download this." Meanwhile, another friend is like, "Yeah, guys, it's gonna take me a week to download this game."
Oh, damn.
So I think what they did is, as part of reworking the intro to that game, is they literally put the first mission of Destiny 1 into it.
Oh, cool.
And that's
Right,
why
okay.
it starts the same.
Okay.
Is because like that was a better introduction for new players
Mhm.
than the core Destiny 2 campaign might have been. So they've reworked what new players see. I believe that was the choice they made. And I don't know if that's good or not because I played Destiny 1, so I don't know. But yeah, if he's feeling that way, I think that's why. I'm pretty sure that's why.
Copy.
But yeah, lore wise, it's fucking all over the place, and there's still a bunch of shit that I don't understand and will never understand. But it generally is okay at pointing you in the right direction of stuff.
That's good to hear.
I guess the catch is that, like, as someone who has been playing Destiny 2 all along, my quest log is littered with a bunch of shit that I'm not even sure is still valid anymore. And so, but starting new, I bet you're not going to have that problem because it'll just kind of direct you to stuff intelligently and maybe be a better experience than the kind of come and go nature of the way I've played that game. The Steam Deck is out. We messed with a couple of y'all have messed with the Steam Deck a bit now. We did a video on Friday, kind of putting it through some of its general paces. Jan, just spending more time with it.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I thought this would be a thing where I would be playing more like AAA games in bed, but I think the experience that it's led me to, specifically with Elden Ring, is like, it's a giant screen, but I don't know if my hands and arms have the stamina to constantly hold that thing up in bed, because there were several times where I was just exploring around the world in Elden Ring and I'd be nodding off, and then I had almost dropped the thing on my face.
Damn.
Yeah,
That's gonna break a nose.
It's gonna break a nose.
Yeah,
that's a heavy, beefy boy.
It's a beefy
I dropped
boy.
my phone on my chest the other night. It's
Still
still
hurts.
real. It's still a real fucking threat.
You gotta go to the hospital.
Yeah. No, I mean, it woke me up. I was like, oh, fuck. Oh.
And Beckler, you've also messed around with this. I think something people will definitely underestimate is how loud the fan can and will get during certain games.
But it smells great.
It smells great.
That was okay. That was my question coming from Twitter. What is the smell of the Steam Deck?
And that's really the trade-off. Like, it is a loud fan, but that really sharp electrical whatever the fuck smell that comes out of that vent is worth the price of admission.
Right.
So, you talk about trade-offs and whatnot, and I feel like you kind of net out with more good than bad there.
They have a little pocket in there. They fill it full of Gabe juice.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, it's his
Gotta
personal
bottle that
scent.
shit. Damn.
He squoes out a personal scent in each unit.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I mean,
So, yeah, he's been hand delivering those to people in Seattle, and he's
I saw
getting his
a
juices
headline
all over
there.
him. Oh,
And
nice.
I didn't click on
Sign
it, but
them,
I
yeah.
did see the headline. So first off, how'd it go? Because I feel bad. I wasn't around. I couldn't. I had personal affairs to handle. But how did it go? What did you think? I want to get that. Fresh take again, if you will replay it for me.
Yeah, I mean, like after checking out the Steam Deck initially with Rory at Valve in Washington, I was kind of hankering to see how much had changed. And for the most part, from my memory and re-referencing old photos in that video, it didn't feel any different. But I think just there's certain buttons on the Steam Deck, and we got into this a little bit, that are too flush with the actual device. Like the Steam button,
the fronts, they're bad buttons. Yeah,
they're bad buttons. And I can see for some folks after a while having the sticks, the analog sticks, and the face buttons being so close to each other and like horizontal to each other being an issue eventually. When in our time with it during the video didn't seem that bad, especially depending on what type of game you're playing. If you're playing something that's as active as Elden Ring, that can kind of bite you in the butt, because at least how my hands are constantly resting, I'm always touching the 4 paddle buttons in the back, and I hadn't set those anything.
I hate paddle buttons. Jeez.
But I had kept clicking on them, and like the clicking in of the sticks also doesn't feel that great.
Mm-hmm.
But then I fired up like a visual novel game, Cooking Companions, which we had done on UPF.
Oh boy.
Yeah, like a couple months ago, and something for that is great. But at the same time, I'm thinking, if it's a visual novel game, I could just run like the Steam app on my phone and play something like that. So I was trying to find like something that's like a little bit of a middle ground. So I just downloaded like an old platformer, and like that felt great, because then like, yo, this looks amazing, and it's not going to be too taxing on the device, so the fan isn't going to be super loud, and my partner won't like hit me in her sleep saying shut the fuck up. And I can't, because yo, it's the fan. I can't control that.
Yeah, I can't control the weather.
I can't control the weather. So if you're not looking to run something that's like a AAA game, or if you're willing at least to bump down the performance on it, I think I had a good time with it.
Yeah, I mean, like,
and the ability to play those AAA games. Like the other thing that folks may not think about or cognizant of is like the battery life immediately dips, right?
Yeah,
like if you are trying
that.
to run something using the speakers and then using that bad boy at full brightness with the vibration on, it's going to chew and eat through that battery ASAP. So I don't know how mobile of a device this is going to be. Like using this on a commute, perhaps, which for me, when there was still an office to go to, felt like the major case of like, yo, like I'm going to be checking in on like my progress on a game, sync up at the studio, and then like we'll be good to go, or on the way home, right? And it just honking, but it's just so fucking big.
Yeah, you're carrying around something that is not exactly, slip in your bag. Like you have to make considerations for the size of this thing.
And then I started thinking like, wow, this would really benefit from a dock that I could just like slap on my desk. And then like
it needs a fucking kickstand.
It needs a kickstand. Like no goofing around. I think it does need a kickstand because like I synced up my PS5 controller to it, and it was great. It was fine. But then like here it's sitting at an odd angle and stuff that I'm like looking over it, and I could see like my double chin in the reflection of the screen and whatnot.
That's never good.
It's never good. So I think having like a kickstand would be good in a Gen 2, but
yeah, but they'll I mean, it's going to have, from what I gather, there's going to be first party accessories,
first party, third party.
They have a dock that they're planning on selling in the spring.
Yeah.
But so I mean, what about the whole idea of like, is this the sort of portable, your entire library on the go? And I feel like the week or so, I guess it was like almost 2 weeks that I had it. That number of games that was compatible was like overnight, you would have an update go off. I mean, I'm sure even while you've had a Jen, we're like, oh shit, 35 games of mine are like operable and classified as verified. I like, do you think do you think there is a place where it will get to where it's like I don't have to worry about this sort of thing. Like I can play pretty much anything I want to do. I feel like that's the vibe that I'm getting.
Oh, I think so. Yeah, I showed it off to a buddy, and has purely been like a console guy, like through and through his whole life. And then I mentioned like, hey, like Steam, right? The stuff on PCs, like you put all that, and it's all in here, buddy. And then his mind was just blown about like the possibilities of revisiting games that he's missed. Not even like new stuff, but older stuff, like that had never made it to a console, or like the ports have been poor. And like that fact had amazed him. And it's a thing that we've talked about a couple times of, the way that games go on sale on Steam or on like the PC market in general is unheard of to console players. Of like, yo, you could get 20 games for 5 cents maybe. And I think like that aspect on top of being able to play whatever is the new hotness is going to be great for folks. Do I think like it's not going to be an on-the-go device? I think it's going to be like I keep this thing at home, and if I want time away from my desk or time away from wherever I am playing stuff, or I want to join the rest of the family and just physically be there but not talk to them and still play a game, then this is that thing,
I mean, but that's the answer. Like sometimes being mobile isn't leaving the house, right? Being mobile, like to me, like going away on a trip and having that with you, it's not about getting to the thing, it's about the destination and having that thing along with you, which I think is the application this winds up sort of solving, the problem that it winds up solving, rather than I'm using it on the bus or the train. Because honestly, I mean, I feel like I have not commuted yet with this thing, and I don't know the next time I will commute, but I do not see myself just sort of like whipping out this massive thing. It's right. It's just not conducive to that, really.
Yeah. Well, usually when people whip out their massive thing on the bus, it just doesn't go well.
Yeah, you get kicked off.
Or like the subway.
People frown on that shit. I don't get it.
Certain lines after dark, where it's more acceptable, perhaps. But yeah, overall, I think like I think when you really look at this thing and you I've seen a lot of chatter about like, oh, the button placement is a little strange. Kind of like, I feel like you're not appreciating just what kind of real estate Tetris-y fuckery is going on in that thing, where doing all that is probably this massive undertaking. I got to speak to some of those devs at Valve, and they were sort of just like, you don't understand how many permutations we went through. This is the best.
Yeah, so some folks had some shots of prototype units and a bunch of 3D printed shells and all kinds of crazy shit. And looking at some of the other stuff they tried, like, some of that stuff didn't always look awesome.
Especially
I'm really anxious to dig into the side loading aspect of it. It's got a package manager built right into Arch Linux and all that other stuff, and it seems like getting the crazy shit installed on it is relatively easy. And I feel like
Grub running Blood on the Sand on his Steam Deck.
Sounds like running the Linux version of RPCS3 is very possible.
Yeah, there was
but also chews through the battery at a crazy, at an even crazier rate. So,
but you got to imagine that stuff sort of catches up with the platform from a development standpoint sooner or later. And not to like, I mean, there's some stuff you can just get out of the box. Like you just use that sort of discovery store in the in the back end there, and you get what you need. I started to mess around with a way to get the Epic Game Store on there, and I did run into a few hiccups. I did not achieve it personally. I don't know if you did, Jan, but it's something that I absolutely need to do for myself with that thing. Like I have to figure that out. I have been a little, sort of away from the party for a few days with that, and I'm sure now that people are talking about this thing in a much more open way, that'll just come out real soon.
Yeah, so far it's just been a lot of people downloading all the emulators and playing N64 games on it and all that other shit. But seeing, because now it's got Chrome.
Yep.
And they're saying, I don't know if this update is hit, but I think in one of those emails that Valve's been sending out to people that have had units, they said that basically like the Game Pass streaming stuff would be working relatively soonish through that browser.
Right.
that there was just some fixes that had to be made. And so that'll be another use case for it too. And yeah, man, it's weird. We did the video and I watched Jan mess with it a bunch, and I was like, this seems like it has some real shortcomings that, like, of course it does. It's a compromise on top of a compromise of like trying to cram a full PC into that form factor. Obviously it's not going to be a goddamn 3090, but also, holy shit, I want one of these things.
Oh my God. Like
I came away from it going like, this thing seems kind of funky, but god damn it, I want to rip that thing apart and do all kinds of weird shit.
Yes.
I think part of my hesitancy is knowing about like digging into it and like getting weirder with it is knowing that I eventually had to ship it off back to Bacalar. And I was like, well, I can't do too many weird things to this thing.
Can't break it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
can't clutter it up with like, dirty videos.
Jan, why does it feel like this now?
Why does it smell like barbecue sauce?
I paid tribute to your Steam Deck.
The fucking electronic smell is gone. It has a new smell now.
Yeah, that fan vent is a little clogged up.
Yeah, like I feel like we might be burying that detail a little bit. This thing's fucking amazing. In terms of like the gadgetry of it all and just like what it can do. Maybe and more so the potential of it is fucking amazing. You know, I think a lot can be said for this thing. Runs a game like God of War pretty goddamn well, and there's a lot of impressive stuff that this thing just kind of laughs at. It does very much feel like you are holding a kind of like I would maybe say like a PS4 in your hands for a lot of like what it can do and handle.
It's as loud as
one. That seems about right.
It what's that?
It's as loud as one.
It's just, yes, it will take off just like one as well. So I think that's nothing short of amazing, and I think having that platform out there will also, in an indirect way, shape the future of what gets released, and the price at which it's sort of offering this is also kind of amazing. So yeah,
hearing
very strong start.
Hearing the loose plans of trying to get VR stuff working on this, I can't wait to see folks strap this onto themselves and then have it be like borderline a Pip-Boy or something on like their hip, and then have a cable running across their spine to throw on like a VR headset.
Well, that was the Magic Leap thing, the AR glasses, right? It was that computer that was just in a puck that you could like hang from your belt loop and then have all the crazy cables coming up to the glasses. And that sucked because the puck got real hot.
Yeah. They didn't have a fan on it.
You had some heat on your hip, fool. Yeah, that thing was, that thing. I'm still getting weird emails from them saying like, click here to update your email preferences. And also,
don't forget about us.
There was a firmware update that we had a battery issue. You should really install it. I'm like, yeah, I'll go find it. I'll go find it in the garage and update it one of these days. That thing. They're making another one though, so whatever. Yeah, it's a weird device. I wonder if it will shape things, because this thing also feels like barely ready for prime time right now. Mm-hmm. Like this is the like obviously early adopters are going to get what early adopters get, but like from the software side of things, I mean today there are 464 Steam Deck verified games, 432 that are Steam Deck playable. It's all according to SteamDB. I assume their stats are good and up to date. And that's just going to keep getting better. But like the level of like firmware updates and all this other stuff, like it still feels very much like this is all brand new and it's crazy. And they've got a lot of good ideas, and a lot of those are represented in the hardware right now. And I'm sure some of them will be yet to come in the years ahead, just from a software level. And then eventually they'll get to a point where they'll do another rev of the hardware. And yeah, I don't know. But I wonder, like, from either of your, and it's hard to say because I know it's been taking all these updates and doing all this shit, but like, does it seem like turnkey and plug and play, like whatever, user friendly enough to where you could hand this to someone who has only played games on consoles
100%.
And just go like, hey, here you go? Because I look at it as like, you were able to download Halo and you click the play button and nothing happens. There's not
Yeah.
even a message saying like, yo, this doesn't work. It just nothing happens. Like that to me, I look at it and go like, that's fucking, for a shipping device, that's fucking insane.
It's again, like there was so much. So yes, that specific example, it's crazy, right?
Yeah. But I think that's all stuff they'll fix. Like you just need a pop-up that says like, yo, this game doesn't work. Like,
but you're right. Like I think we also give this thing a bit of a longer leash for whatever reason. I don't know like what it is.
I think it makes a ton of sense because I think they're not selling it at a Best Buy, right?
Yeah.
You have to log into Steam and say, yes, I'm a Steam user. So it feels like the people that are going to get these units for the foreseeable future are probably going to be a little bit more ready for this thing to be a little fucking wild. And that's exciting to me. It's exciting. Like seeing a drop down menu that says like, here's the 20 different versions of Proton you can run. I'm like, yeah, fucking let's go. This is nuts. But
it's, I mean, like you said, these people are used to early access, right? So there's some built-in understanding of that relationship too. But when I had it in my possession, this thing was getting updated sometimes like 3 times a day.
Yeah.
So it's all been sort of backloaded in a really overwhelming way. But I do think, look, someone who is savvy enough to be like, I've procured one of these, right? Like with, and I think maybe that's where some of that leniency comes into play.
Totally.
Because this is just like not on Amazon or Best Buy.
Yeah. I think if they were just had a big wide hardware rollout and they were just like, here it is at Walmart or something, like those people would take that home and be like, what am I even doing?
Totally.
But yeah, they're not doing that.
Yeah, it's a different pipeline.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's I do think in the beginning, like I was trying to run so many games that would download and then sort of get kind of off the ground where the Steam logo was spinning, and then it would just like spit you back out, and you'd be like, what the fuck? What is this? Like, is something wrong with this unit? Like, so that's obviously got to get better, just because of course it has to get better.
Yeah.
But yeah, it ain't done.
Yeah.
It ain't done.
I will say it is very impressive to click on Elden Ring and then like, oh, there it is, God of War, there you are with your boy. But I think the weirdest borderline, it's going to sound dumb, the weirdest and borderline spiritual moment I had is it was like maybe 2 o'clock in the morning. I finally grabbed some headphones so I could start listening to games again. And then I was just playing Tetris Effect on that bad boy.
Oh.
And just like getting lost in it and just, oh my God, like the music hitting and then like the actual like good vibration in the Steam Deck versus if you were playing, I don't know, with this shitty rumble on a Switch. But seeing that and all those colors pop off, just like, damn, was I in the zone? Felt great. Those damn jellyfish were something else, man.
Yeah.
It's the best handheld game ever made, Tetris.
Turns out.
Nintendo knew it.
Always has been, always will be.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, why don't we take another break? We'll come back and we'll speed run the news here.
Sure. Cool.
All right, we're back. Why don't we get into the news? What do you say? All right, here we go.
Rapid fire. Pew, 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 pew.
Boom. Pow. Quaxley.
Yo.
Yes.
Yo, Quaxley.
That hair.
Is it hair? Is it a hat?
That's hair. That's completely hair.
That looks like a big pompadour to me.
Yep. He's a
They've announced a new Pokemon game, a new Pokemon generation, and they're shipping it at the end of this year.
It's too soon. There's too much Pokemon happening. As someone that likes Pokemon, loves Pokemon, I'd even say.
Cute,
Scarlet and Violet are the new games. There's Polygon noted that the announcement trailer, the description on the announcement trailer on YouTube called the games open world. And so this is going to be the first time we've had a core Pokemon game that's maybe been not in that core format of all of those other games, right? I mean, they've all kind of been the...
Yeah. I mean, Legends Arceus is like considered like an offshoot, but if it is more akin to that DNA, I feel like they can't have two named versions of a game and not do the gym battle formula, but I feel like maybe they'll gate that in the same way they do in Legends of Arceus, where, hey, you can't control up to a certain level of Pokemon, you gotta just fill up your Pokedex at least. And if they can do that and shift that into however they're gonna do Scarlet and Violet, I think it'd be neat to approach it that way. I don't know how they're gonna get around like Pokemon randomly wanting to attack you, because it was you know, in world, in universe, it made sense since it was way back in time versus this one, which looks like it's in modern times. But yo, as soon as I saw the name Fuecoco, that OT Genesis song popped up in my head, and then I was all sold. I'm in love with Fuecoco.
All right,
yep.
Yeah.
Baking soda.
Oh, you've got baking soda.
I just don't know if they've had enough of a break or if they've actually learned anything from Legends Arceus.
Yeah. It doesn't look. I mean,
take a break, man. Fucking
trailer
take a
looks
year.
Kind of rough.
The trailer does look super rough.
In the same way that a lot of the Pokemon games on Switch have looked.
Yeah. It's, I don't know, like the designs.
Quaxley.
Yeah. Can we talk about
Weed Cat?
Yes.
I hope it stays a cat and doesn't become a sexy cat later.
I just love that the type is grass. And how am I pronouncing this? Sprigatito?
Sprig ID. Yeah.
Sprig ID.
This had to be considered at some point
That's the name of a strain, or
it is
community
now.
Would adopt this as their forever mascot.
Oh, totally. There's already battle lines drawn across the sand as to who people are pledging their alliances to.
I'm surprised, to be quite honest. Is any other? Is there like another kind of drug Pokemon? Is there another one?
Coughing.
Or is this
Coughing,
wheezing,
Snorlax.
Snorlax is just on a bunch of like downers.
Yeah.
What's
just on a bunch of eddies?
Fucked up on some ludes.
Yeah.
Machoke and Machamp, they've like taken too many roids, so they're kind of jacked up and angry all the time.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Not okay. Sure. Now I get it. Yeah. This fucking thing. It doesn't look stoned though. Like it's
because that's like the innocence, you know, like that's the innocence and the duality of man, of like the initial inklings of getting into that world, and then I bet you like later when it evolves, it's just going to be smoking. Like smoke is just going to be popping off.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's gonna be a fat cat.
Yeah. Valve has a new Portal themed game coming out today on Steam. This seems like the so this is built for the Steam Deck, and this seems like it is meant to be a walkthrough of the Steam Deck's features. It is called I'm sorry, what is it called here? Desk Job, Aperture Desk Job. And they are billing it as a free playable short set in the universe of the modestly popular Portal games. The writing on the store page for this is quite good. If you like the writing in Portal, go read the store page for Aperture Desk Job. If you remember the Steam VR setup, it was also kind of a Portal themed like lab thing, and they put out that other thing that you could download that was also kind of set in that universe. This just seems like that for the Steam Deck. That's cool. They should do that. They did it.
They should do more of that.
Yeah. Well, they when they shipped hardware, they don't. They didn't do one of those for the Steam controller, and look at that thing.
Right?
That's it. Exactly. Well, I mean, without the Steam controller, I feel like, and all the modifications they had to make to Steam to make it better at all its controller supporting stuff, like the Steam Deck probably would have had a much harder time making sense. Bloomberg is reporting that Call of Duty is going to take a year off next year.
See, that's how you do it.
Pokemon.
Yeah.
This was originally supposedly going to be a Treyarch game, probably set in the Black Ops timeline, because that's been most of what they've made lately, and that game is getting pushed off, according to people at Activision, familiar with the plans. According to Bloomberg, familiar with the people at Activision who are familiar with the plans. This is
they're all big friends.
Yeah, they're all big friends. This kind of comes in the wake of the details on the contractual obligations with Activision and Sony, where the reporting out of that was like, okay, we've got the Modern Warfare sequel this year, which Activision's already confirmed, and then there's this Black Ops theme thing from Treyarch the following year, and then a proper Warzone follow-up happening somewhere in that timeline, which seems like that's potentially this year. I'd have to go back and read. This sounds like the right move, and that maybe this came from some of the notion of how Vanguard hit or didn't hit, as the case may be.
I'm just glad there will not be essentially 2 years of Vanguard now, like with that kind of gap. You know what I mean?
Right. Yes. They're still shipping game this year. If they take this year off and not next year, it'd be like, woof, wow.
No bueno.
Yeah. This seems like a very good move for them. That feels like that's just long overdue, and I guess the wheels fell off, huh? Like whether it was Vanguard or like the last couple of games. But the feeling, I guess, internally, according to these reports, is that they felt that maybe last year's game kind of cannibalized Vanguard. I think. Well, I don't know. I don't have access to the numbers, but to me, Black Ops was already a step in the wrong direction when that game hit. So they've had a couple of misses lately. Let's see. Jeff Grubb, man about town Jeff Grubb, reporting on his internet program Grubb Snacks. This is according to Video Games Chronicle, who's reporting this, because that's the most end around weird way that we can talk about this stuff. Anyway, he talked a little bit about Project Spartacus, which is the tiered approach to PlayStation's online networks and services, with the idea being the higher tiers will lead you to be able to access a wide catalog of older PlayStation games, which is interesting here. According to Grubb, he says it's probably getting pretty close to this actually launching. Something's probably going to happen by the end of this month, and I don't think that necessarily means publicly. I think in terms of the internal milestone of where the service needs to be. So it sounds like that stuff is coming together in one way or the other. He also reports that currently the tiers are referred to as Essential, Extra, and Premium, which is some fucking Cold Stone Creamery ass naming.
Oh man, yeah.
If I tip my PlayStation Network, does it sing a song for me
directly into your ear, out of the controller,
out of the controller speaker?
Out of the controller,
they sing some fucking PlayStation Network song. Great. And that the pricing currently, again, and he says this could all be placeholder. Of course, all this is subject to change because none of it's been announced. Is that the pricing would be $10 a month for Essential, $13 for Extra, and $16 for Premium. With the Essential tier basically being what you're getting right now from your PlayStation Plus subscription, but also that Premium tier doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get day one access to all of PlayStation's first party games the way Microsoft does with Game Pass, that it's more of a full game trial sort of situation, which to me is kind of a non-starter. For the whole concept. But we'll see what the downloadable game catalog stuff ends up being. This will probably roll in a lot of the PlayStation Now stuff, and then additionally have some access to older games. And I'm curious to see what that even means. If they're going to be running natively on a PlayStation 5, which seems very doable up to a point. But that's kind of a lot of work. Or will they, am I going to be streaming PS3 games or something insane like that, but PS1 and 2 run natively? Or there's just a lot of different ways that stuff could go. And so I'm extremely curious to see how that nets out.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But I guess I feel like if they're not launching their own games on it at the highest tier, that to me seems fucking insane. I don't know. Like that value just seems all messed up at that point to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't pass the sniff test.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like, oh, and on top of that, they are charging $70 for PlayStation 5 games. So unless that comes with hey, if you're paying for the high end tier, we also knock 10 or 20. No, even that's not enough. No, whatever. No, that's not enough. Like if I'm paying their highest tier of service, I should get those games. The competition is already doing that.
You're not wrong.
Yeah, but we'll see. I imagine there are probably aspects of this service that are probably still up in the air as they have not announced it yet. But
sure.
But we'll see.
Yeah,
where
there could be additional benefits that we're not aware of yet.
Yeah, maybe I get a cool shirt.
Yay! There we go.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Let's see. Fighting game in fighting game tournament news.
This is wild.
Nintendo has informed Evo that Smash Brothers will not be a part of Evo any longer.
Wow.
Again.
Yes.
Great.
There's a statement out there from Evo, which remember, Evo got bought by Sony.
Yep. And is completely run by different people now.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So they this is in Evo is getting ready to announce what games they're going to be playing in the tournament this year. They're going to do that on March 8th, but getting out ahead of that, they said like, hey, by the way, Smash is not one of those games.
Yeah, it was smart to kind of just float that out there. Get it out of the way to put a spotlight on the games that they are playing. So otherwise it just would have drowned.
Mm-hmm. Their quote here is, "We are saddened that Nintendo has chosen not to continue that legacy with us this year. In the future, we hope to once again celebrate the Super Smash Brothers community alongside them."
Mm-hmm.
GameSpot points out that that Nintendo did do a deal with Panda Global to run Smash tournaments separately from all of this. So it may be that they're just like, whatever, we want to officially run this stuff. But Nintendo has had a weird
relationship with Evo.
Pretty normal.
Yeah.
Pretty normal. I feel like keeping Evo at arm's length is a sensible thing for Nintendo to do when you think about the people that had been running Evo.
Mm-hmm.
And
True.
And that sort of stuff. So yeah, we'll see.
There'll be plenty of other opportunities to showcase that game for sure. That community's
whatever. They'll go to their own thing. It'll be fine.
They don't need Evo.
Yeah.
You know who does? Street
Capcom.
Fighter 5.
Yeah. Capcom needs Evo.
But they're
Capcom's fucking around.
Yep. They're going to find out.
The Capcom is currently fucking around, and we'll see if they find out. They have updated the community license agreement for Street Fighter V Champion Edition, and you can assume that some aspect of this might carry over to Street Fighter 6, but currently that is what they're saying. The upshot of this is that they have basically they're laying out a bunch of like a license agreement for people who want to run Street Fighter tournaments, saying here are the things you can and cannot do. And some of the stuff seems very restrictive. It's a cap on how much money and sponsorships you can bring in.
I don't know how that's an upshot. I don't understand that.
And also that the prize pools are capped at $2,000 per event, and there's also another annual cap.
Yep.
Some of it is like, hey, the event cannot be broadcast on television.
Sure.
And you should not use the Street Fighter brand in the name of your event, or the Street Fighter logo in the name of your event. Some governing use around the IP that makes sense.
That makes sense. Yeah, like if you wanted to start like a Street Fighter 5 fest, no, you can't do that.
Yeah. All of this seems aimed at them preventing people from running large tournaments with their game.
They need to have those types of tournaments.
So you can still run those types of tournaments, but if you are going to do anything that does not adhere to this community license agreement, then you must contact Capcom and negotiate an esports license.
Yep.
That's wild.
And that, I assume, is a biz dev process where Capcom's like, yeah, but you got to kick us. If you're raking in sponsorship money that we want to fucking cut, Holmes.
Not sure if they want to cut so much as like they allow higher tiers of prize pool stuff.
Yes, that as well. But they are capping sponsorship money for these community events.
Yep.
So that is one of the things. So if you are bringing in a bunch of sponsorship money, I assume Capcom wants its taste.
I think rather they can then keep their prize totals for Capcom Pro Tour to a reasonable level.
Yes, that probably is also a nice benefit for them, is they don't have to look like they are not shelling out for the community. Has that been a problem? Do you remember if that has come up? If people having just much bigger prize pools than Capcom has had?
No. I mean, they've never had huge prize pools to begin with. But this annual limit shit is kind of scary for people like, Next Level Battle Circuit, who do weeklies.
Yeah.
Who run Matcherino, which is all kind of donation based. Is that sponsor money or is that prize money? Like it there's a lot of questions that are not answered in this document by any means.
And the reaction
there's
has
a lot
been
of holes.
Scathing.
Super negative. Even from just like freelance photographers, maybe they'll get hired from a tournament organizer. And Capcom wants full royalty free usage of all those pictures, of all that video footage, all the match footage, just wholesale. And the freelancers are super pissed about that, of course.
Yeah, that's gross.
Yep.
So it's the reactions to this online that I've seen has been very negative, and you see some people saying like, well, Street Fighter 6 is already dead, they killed it. If this is what they want to do to the community, then there's not going to be a community left for them to launch a new game into.
They're perfectly within their right to protect their copyright. I get that.
Yeah.
Whether or not they're willing to pull the trigger on this shit remains to be seen.
Right.
It is totally not in their best interest to do so. Like the fighting game community is a marketing machine for their fighting games in particular.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. It seems like this is akin to when Nintendo tried to step in and say, you can't stream our games without giving us a cut and agreeing to this very restrictive agreement that they did eventually step away from a large part of it. But like, this just feels very much like the Japanese publisher still kind of not really getting how the internet works and
or how the West works,
how the West works, and really fucking up. It's very it was very interesting. I saw this at 3 a.m. Like I woke up and I was awake and just kind of scrolled through Twitter real quick and saw it. And I was like, holy shit, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, I know.
Like, what?
Was it the reception of Street Fighter 6, or was there something that happened at like a tournament recently that
this
spurred
seems
this?
like it's just in conjunction of just like, they just had that last Pro Tour event and kind of so it's kind of like maybe, hey, before we get into, or hey, now that we're getting ready to announce our new game and we're kind of like done with Street Fighter 5, like maybe they view that as a good time to update the agreement.
Possibly, and that's maybe giving them too much credit, but that very well could be, I guess. But
as for the timing, I don't understand. So
because we're at the end of life cycle for Street Fighter 5, so it's super interesting because I mean they don't name Street Fighter 6 or they do say like the game.
Yeah,
they keep referring
to Street Fighter 5 Champion Edition is what they keep talking about. They have updated a few hours ago and basically said, yesterday we published the new community license agreement for both the Americas and EMEA. Our aim was to make running an event easier. When TOs have contacted Capcom about running community events in the past, the approval process has always taken a lot of time. We wanted to make the rules clear and allow for much faster approvals. We're also keen to build tighter relationship with TOs and to encourage safe spaces to play the game. Thank you to everyone who sent us feedback thus far. We are reviewing this feedback with the wider Capcom team and will follow up with more updates soon. That sounds like, hey, we knew exactly that this was going to happen, but they made us do this, and now we're going to send this feedback back and say, I fucking told you so.
Yeah.
Walk it back.
I do like the fact that there's some community guidelines put in place. That's kind of cool as well.
Yeah,
But-
there's aspects of this, and like honestly, like for their position on this, I think makes some sense in terms of there are a lot of people out there, you know, there's a lot of money changing hands around this game, and you know, it gets into the whole thing of like public exhibition of a console game and stuff that has always been forbidden in a lot of license agreements, but never really enforced. And you know, you've got your esports bars and all this other shit. Like this is a growing industry, and I think the people that make the games probably need to get a handle on where they get theirs, because it probably should be more than just selling the copies of the game. But this feels like it is deliberately fucking over people running smaller tournaments, and that seems like the exact opposite of what they want to do.
My knee-jerk reaction was, who the fuck do you think you are? Like, there are other companies.
We're the people that make Street Fighter.
Yeah,
you can get away with anything,
what?
right?
Not anymore.
Not
you
anymore.
keep doing shit like this, Street Fighter can easily go by the wayside. There's plenty of other games that are up and coming that could just as easily replace Street Fighter, I think.
Yeah, it feels like there's never been that now more than ever, perhaps it feels like Street Fighter is something that could be replaced. But I don't.
With the way that
know.
they've been directing things lately.
Yes,
I think
sure. So. I mean, I'm very excited to see what an Ono-less Street Fighter looks like.
Apparently, it looks like an Adobe stock logo.
Well, yeah.
No, the F is different, Jason. It's ever so slightly
very different.
curved.
Yeah,
As
they
a
did round some
patent-
corners. Yes.
The patent lawyer, I'll have you know that those are the same logo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. Like this very much strikes me as like there are probably people in positions at Capcom where they were not able to fight this off despite telling them, hey, this is probably not the way to do this. Like there's probably a way to do something like this, but this is not the way. And then it got rolled out and they're like, all right, guess what? Everyone hated it. But yes, they did. There is some stuff in there about just the tournament environment and what they don't want to have happen in their game. Prohibited behavior includes physical or cyber violence.
Yeah, no cyber violence. We're sick of it.
I'm just going to say cyber violence sounds like a fighting game.
Yep.
Yeah, it's certainly a phrase.
I know that's not what they mean, but when you say you're prohibiting cyber violence, the games where people punch each other over and over again, that sounds like cyber violence to me. I don't know.
Is that cyberbullying still?
No.
That is the goal. I think that is the crux of what they are attempting to get to, but they instead said no physical or cyber violence. All one word: cyber violence.
All right.
Cyber
If someone beats me in the finals of a Street Fighter tournament, right? It's all online, and then I eventually find their address, go into their place, and take a baseball bat to their fighting stick. Is that cyber violence still?
No, that happened in the real world. That would be physical violence to a fight stick.
Okay.
Hey, it didn't happen on the tournament grounds.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
I just needed to, figure this all out just in case.
Yeah, no, we'll figure out how you can continue to be a toxic fighting game player. Yeah,
oh no, that's
it's
Smash.
Just, yeah. Oh yeah. I guess that's the way. Yeah. If you want to be a toxic fighting game player, get into Smash, and then the showers will stop naturally, and then what happens happens. That's gonna do it for news. That's gonna do it for the show too. Yeah. What else? There's more games coming out somehow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know how there's room, but here we are.
It really snuck up on me, but I guess Gran Turismo 7 is out this week.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Like a Friday release or
the 7th? Yeah, I think it's
sure.
I think it's one of those things. It's technically Friday, but it's more like a Thursday night or Thursday, some kind of 3 a.m. job or something.
Love those.
Yeah. So yeah, that's it. I don't know. I guess everyone's probably still got a lot of Elden Ring left to play or something. A lot of cyber violence left to commit against.
Carve out a couple years for Elden Ring. You'll be fine.
Yeah, committing cyber violence against all those fucking birds.
Oh, with like the swords on their feet?
Fuck those guys.
Dude,
Stick
those
'em.
guys are fucking unbelievable.
Gross.
Like,
it's just gross.
I didn't mention this when we were talking about it earlier in the show, but like I kind of let my kids see some of that shit.
Oh no.
Oh no!
But like I knew, but like I didn't let him see like the ogres with the holes in their bodies. Like that's too much. I feel like that would keep him up all night. But I let him see those fucked up birds, and he was just like, "That's not real, right?" I'm like, "No, you dumb little idiot. Those aren't real." But it's scary, right?
So just stay inside. Everything will be fine.
They can't get through the windows of the house. Don't worry, you're safe.
The swords can though.
Exactly. All right, so we'll be back with more stuff this week, and of course, the Bombcast will return next Tuesday. Everybody have a fantastic week.
You too.
We'll see you soon.
Later.
Bye.